server.
Hospitality.
Yeah, hospitality is like different, but I wish to grow up with the Marriott. That's why I'm here. Maybe when I get my license, I get to Marriott, and after that I can go to Vacation Club.
And timeshare sales.
Yes.
Very
yeah.
cool. Okay.
Thank you so much.
And how did you hear about us? Through a memo, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. I'll turn this over to you.
Okay.
Move the camera over.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't like being on camera. Hello, my name is Shatondra Brown. I've been in Orlando, I think about 5 years. I'm originally from Mississippi. I'm a country girl, and I'm an Army veteran. So I've started, absolutely. So started in the military and then about 15 years in corporate and ready for something different. I've always had an interest in real estate, so I'm just taking a non-traditional path, I guess, into real estate. Yeah.
Okay, well, if not wanting to do any type of public speaking, you did a great job.
Okay.
And listen, we got to get used to it, right? Because we're in the business.
That's
dealing with
right.
people. So,
That's right.
so thank you for sharing. And I want to hear about you guys online while we wait for the rest of the students to show up. First day of class sometimes could be difficult finding the location, but you guys, oh, there we go. There's one. Hi. Welcome. Got here just in time. All right. We have a few more showing up here. So I'll get you supplies in just a moment. But before that, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, Raphael, or Raphael, if you could introduce yourself real quick to the class.
Hi, how are you? My name is Rafael Zenke, and I have been in the food industry. I have been a restaurant owner for the past 10 years, and I sold my last restaurant in April. So moving on to a different life and starting a new business. And I used to do real estate in Brazil, where I'm from. I'm from Rio de Janeiro. And so here in America, everything is different. So I have to work on the license and start everything from scratch, and that's okay. And always learning, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Michael.
That's awesome. Thank you for introducing yourself. That's all your supplies. Yeah, that's great. Great testimonial. So you used to have a real estate license, or you used to invest in Brazil?
So in Brazil, I have houses. I have a gym, a pharmacy there. It's real estate, but I manage the real estate as well. So, and I have the tenants there, and I do everything from a distance now, but everything works a little different here.
Yeah, and I'm sure unless you have really good people, it's really difficult to manage businesses from outside of the country. I can attest to that. So thank you for sharing that with us, and hopefully you got people you could trust. That's the most important thing, and hard workers as well. All right, William, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah.
You're breaking up, William.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I retired in 2016, and my wife is joining us as well. We're looking to start a new adventure post-retirement. We've remodeled several old historic homes since we've been retired, and just got interested in the business and looking to get something, a second career started.
Yeah, I definitely get that. So you like, so you're investing already. You and your wife, you're taking class together, you mentioned?
Yes, she's Barbara Ann.
She in class right now?
Yes.
Yes. Is that Barbara?
That's Barbara Ann, right.
Where, okay, we have another here. Okay, there we go. Hi. So yeah, definitely can relate to that. That's why I look so rough today. I was thinking, okay, before class today, I'm going to go check on the properties because I'm renovating 2 properties that I'm flipping, one in Cocoa and one in Castleberry. And I'm like, I'm going to go get a haircut. I'm going to look fresh. And I completely forgot. So I look a little rough today. Forgive me for that. But last minute, I got guys working over there and they're like, oh, the dumpster's filled up. And I'm like, I'll bring you trash bags. Okay. we got to clean the property up. We can't. So anyhow, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. And in class with us, let me get you a index card. Okay. Just like your fellow classmates here, write your name a little bit bigger so I can see that. Big and bold across the front. Here is the microphone. Tell us where you're from, if you're not originally from Florida, why you want to get a real estate license, and how you heard about it.
Yeah, so my name is Nisha. I'm originally from New York, but I've been in Florida for pretty much all my life, so 22 years. And what brought me to real estate, I've always been interested in the market, in that industry. And I knew it was for me, but I was very young when, it first was presented to me. I really didn't know what real estate was at a young age. I was like, yeah, whatever. This is me being about 19. And I'm like, okay. I started, working, and I just knew that like Orlando was like growing, and I was like, I want to be a part of that. I want to grow with it. So, I didn't do it right away. I was a little scared. I'm gonna admit, like, I was like, no, that's not for me. But it just kept coming back to me years and years. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna just go for it. I've actually seen Cameron Academy a couple of times, but I guess things happen for a reason, and it just kept coming up. And I'm like, this must be the school I need to attend, and well, I would research it online on Google. I did see it on Instagram one time, and I'm like, that was actually the recent one. That was the one that got me like, you know what? Yes. So, yeah, here I am.
Everything happened for a reason.
Everything.
I'm a huge for that. And you're here for a reason, right? Whatever brought you here, and whatever the journey that you went through to get here is all for a good reason. And you're in the right place. So hopefully you guys understand that, and that resonates with you. And my goal is to make sure you have a great experience and walk away with all the knowledge you need to pass your state exam on your first attempt, like your friends. And yeah, and I'm confident you will. Most of our students do. Obviously, we can't study for you, and we'll get into that a little bit later on, but we'll give you all the tools to succeed. Just understand that. This is not just me. I'm not a robot. I don't read every single word in that textbook that I provided to you verbatim. No two classes I teach are the same, and that's with all of our instructors at Cameron Academy. We have about 50 some odd instructors. We started in Central Florida, but we branched out nationally now. So if you want to get a real estate license, where were you stationed at? Okay, in Texas. If you want to get a real estate license in Texas, though it requires the most amount of hours out of any state in the nation, 180 hours versus 63, what you're doing with us. We do offer that course, the real estate, not just real estate though, mortgage, insurance. We're adding nursing, construction, and a few other financial licenses. That's national, Series 6, Series 7, if you want to help people buy, sell stocks and so forth. Insurance, health, life, variable annuity, also property and casualty insurance. So you can rely on us for that. And I'm going to share a couple licenses I think you should get that complement your real estate license, so you can maximize on every single real estate transaction you do from the very beginning. And the sooner you get that license that complements the real estate license, you'll be making more money than any real estate agent that's practicing right out the gate, just off of that, several $1,000s, just because you have the license off of that same transaction where you make thousands less. I'll show you how you can get to that, but we're not done with our introductions here. Okay, Ariana. Hi.
Hi, I'm Ariana. I'm from Orlando, Florida. I'm currently a senior in college at the University of South Florida. And I'm at the point where I have to figure out what I want to do with my life. So here I am.
You're in the right place.
Yep.
Where we help a lot of transitioners. People are just trying to figure out, okay, where I want to go next. I mean, what other career can you jumpstart in 2 weeks and help people make potentially the biggest financial commitment they've ever made in their entire life? I mean, that's exciting. And that begins right here. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, Barbara.
Hi, can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So Ariana, I'm at the other end of the spectrum. So my husband, William, is sitting across from me in our kitchen, and he just introduced himself, and we're retirees. And we're just kind of having fun with the idea of taking this course and seeing where it takes us. We've been through a number of renovations, as he mentioned. We just finished a 2-year renovation of a 1920s bungalow in Mount Dora. And then we had done several in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico, and we may find ourselves back internationally again. And this real estate course could actually help us with all that. So we're excited to be here as well.
That's awesome. And that's funny you mentioned Mexico specifically, because that's where we build properties in Mexico as well, mainly on the Gulf Coast and the Yucatan Peninsula. So very interesting. And there's definitely some synchronicities there as well. What you'll find out about this course as we progress is a lot of what I present to you guys might not necessarily be in black and white, but a lot of it is based off of experience. And I know that most students that take my class, either they're currently investing or they eventually want to invest in real property. And I'm glad I get to be a part of that journey. But while I'm part of that journey with you, I try to share as much information as I can. The do's and don'ts, what you need to think about, mistakes other people have made, what the heartaches that people go through when investing. And you guys are more than welcome to share yours as well, especially renovating historic properties. Wow. Historic properties, dealing with historic districts, that is intense. Everything is particular. Everything has to be done in a specific way. Can't touch a window unless it's this, and can't touch, it's very interesting. So thank you for sharing that. And we'll definitely give you a platform so you can share a little bit more. All right. And Lucas.
Hi, my name is Lucas. I'm also from Brazil. So I live here in Orlando.
Wait a second. No Brazilian mafia is forming here. Okay.
always. We have a lot of realtors Brazilian from Brazil.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So yeah, I'm from Brazil. I live here since 2020. I just work with vacation homes with property manager since 2021. And we got a contact with a lot of investors in Orlando that comes to buy house, comes to invest here. So that's why I'm getting my license to.
Okay. Let me ask you a very important question. You're providing property management services right now?
No, I work with property manager. I work with a company in vacation homes.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Good. So you're in the right place if that's what you want to continue doing and be compensated fairly for all of your efforts. Thank you guys so much for introducing yourselves. I guess we'll find out where our stragglers are that didn't show up, but we'll handle that on the admin side. You guys made it. So congratulations on that. Man, today has been a jam-packed day. Besides bouncing back and forth between the properties, I'm part of the Rotary Club. Are you familiar with the Rotary Club? Okay. Actually, to be fair, I wasn't really familiar with Rotary Club until I started doing research on it. I'm a historic anti-joiner. I don't want anti-membership type stuff, but I wanted to get back to the community. So I did some research, and a few of the public leaders in my city were part of the Rotary Club. So I'm like, okay, let me figure out what this is all about. And then once I got into it and attended a few meetings, I fell in love with it. I'm not trying to pitch you guys on Rotary Club. I'm just kind of letting you enter my life a little bit. They do a lot of philanthropic stuff, like food pantries at elementary schools, Title I schools, kids that are homeless. I volunteer every Wednesday at a Title I school. We feed 120 kids a week that are food insecure and home insecure as well, living out of hotels and so forth. And it's sad, but it's beautiful at the same time. And then also a lot of giving back. So, what happened? So get out of here. Cool. Sorry. I'm using my personal cell phone for because I wanted to give you guys like a higher quality of image for rather than using my laptop. And also, if I put it on the gimbal, it follows me. So I have that AI thing, so I'm not trapped behind a podium. That's like my nightmare. So I can move around the classroom and it follows me, and it's like I got my own personal cameraman, you know? It's fun. If you want the information, I'll share it with you. But it's called Insta 360 or something like that. I don't sell it, or I don't have a referral link to give you, but you can look it up. Anyhow, so I want to get started with our session, and I guess I can start by once again sharing a little bit more about myself and my journey and how I got into real estate. If I'm being honest, I never thought I was going to be in real estate. It was just not my bag. I thought I was going to be a famous music producer. And I produced with a lot of major artists and engineered for major artists, and were in those studios and worked with Brandy, did a couple of tracks with her, I don't know if you know who Brandy is. She's kind of like come and gone. If yeah. And they didn't go the direction I proposed for her latest album, and that's kind of when she fell off. So if they would have listened to me and used my tracks, then we would have been in a different story. She probably would have been more relevant, but anyhow, and I work with I've done pop, I've done hip hop, I've worked with 2 Chainz on a couple of tracks, mixtape stuff and so forth, but nothing that you guys care about. I didn't get paid off of these things, you know. It's like I just donate my time, my creativity for like this ultimate goal of like eventually getting paid for it. But I have this problem that I don't like asking people for things, especially if, you know, God gives you the capability to do it yourself. You know, you got air in your lungs, you can walk and so forth. So I'm like, I want to carve my own path. I want to ask my parents to continue like funding this dream of mine. I want to make my own money and support myself. So I decided to get in real estate, and I was 18 at the time. I was producing music since I was in middle school. And then all throughout high school, and then a little bit of college. I didn't finish college. I'm probably a few credits away from getting my bachelor's in whatever it was I was majoring at the time. It's been so long ago. And I got into real estate. I haven't looked back ever since. So that's what real estate means to me. It's like it's provided me with a lifestyle that very like many people dream of, right? And I know that you guys can have that as well. But the way I'm wired is I want to learn. And I'm thinking like, once again, I don't like asking people for things, and I don't like waiting for answers. So I go and I seek the answers. I'm a truth seeker, right? And I don't know if that resonates with you, but I want to go out and look for things that I want to learn about. And I've done that my entire life. So real estate, there was many components of real estate I didn't have knowledge of, but I wanted to keep learning. So I got my sales associate license. Then I got my appraiser's license shortly after. I got my mortgage license, which is a license that I'm going to recommend to you guys, and I'll explain why. I got my broker's license, currently own and operate my own brokerage company, not Market Connect Realty, even though they're hosting us. Brokerage companies, they host our school at various locations throughout the state of Florida and other states as well. So I'm not in competition with them whatsoever. I don't look for new agents. I basically got the broker's license because of knowledge, and I wanted that knowledge, and I wanted control of my own destiny. And it's nice to be employed by a broker when you start in the business, but you learn from them and you grow from that. And then if you're wired like me, then you want to own it. You want to run the show, and you feel like you can be strong as a leader and so forth, and bring something new to the table. So I got my broker's license, and then I started investing in real estate, and I got hooked on that as well. And then I wanted to try selling commercial real estate. So I got into that, selling industrial, selling farmland, selling various types of real estate, investing in those properties as well, investing in commercial. It's a completely different transaction, different from the typical transaction you guys are going to be involved in, at least starting out. What else? I got my instructor's license because I had a horrible experience when I took class. When I took real estate class many moons ago, we had been in business for over 20 years. And when I got my license, I had a horrible experience. It was just mind numbing. Basically, somebody stood behind a podium and read me the entire textbook. And I'm thinking there's so much room for value to be added in this position. So I want to try my hand at providing instruction. And I started little at a time, and then eventually we grew the business, and then we expanded nationally, and we focused more on online stuff. But I still get out in front of a classroom and teach from time to time, and I enjoy it. What I want to share with you about that, when I was doing research before we decided to open up the school, I'm asking a lot of people, what was your experience like when you took real estate class? And it was basically the same experience I had. It was horrible. It was basically somebody just old as dust reading the entire textbook. And I brought technology into the classroom. We're the first school in the nation to offer computerized testing for the class exam. First school in the state of Florida, if not the nation, to make a mobile app to help you prepare for the state exam. Exam prep mobile app. We're the first person when the App Store first became a thing. We were on that first wave. And then we're revamping and relaunching that as well. We're very excited about it. First school to offer live streaming classes. No other school is offering live stream classes. And believe it or not, when we started offering live stream classes, other schools submitted complaints about us to the state. Like, how can you regulate this and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually it went away, and then they approved it. And then we're the first school to innovate in that space. And then the pandemic hit, and then we look like geniuses because everybody moves online, right? What is that cycle that you go through? Like, first of all, people like think you're crazy. They scrutinize you, and then eventually, I don't want to say we look like geniuses, but definitely have a little foresight when it comes to technology and the need for having technology in the classroom. So what is the point of me saying that? We want to make sure you have the best experience here. So we continuously enhance this experience to make it the best experience possible for you guys, and to make it easier, the process for you as well, and getting the license. And that's why we're all here. So no matter what it was that you shared to get your real estate license, whatever brought you here to Florida, Central Florida, you are here for a reason. It's what brings tens of thousands of families here every single year. Aren't we the most moved to state in the nation? Did you know that? Statistically, and this is for several years, we're the most moved to state in the nation, whether that be policy, whether that be the environment, even though we have hurricanes. Central Florida is proving to be the golden what is it? Goldilocks zone, right? So I'm happy about that, and I'm sure you guys realize that as well and see the growth and want to be a part of that growth. You're in the right place. This is where it begins. This is your journey. So without getting too preachy on you guys and rambling on, you guys feel good? Ready to get started? Jump right into it? All right. Hopefully we learn a little bit more about each other as we progress and you share your goals and so forth. But I could talk a lot, unfortunately, and I have a lot to share with you guys. Good stuff, though, stuff you're going to enjoy. I'm not one of those teachers that just ramble on about a story with no ending and no point. I'll tie it into what we're discussing. Don't worry about that. Anyhow, let's jump into our session. What I want to start with, let me see if I can pull this up real quick. All my documentation here. Let's open that. All right, let me open this as well. 5-step guide. Let me open up this. All right, so you do have folders that I provided to you guys, and in that folder it says a 5-step guide towards getting a real estate license. I just made it easy for you, putting it all in one place. So if you ever have questions along the way, you're confused about something, not that you're bothering us by inquiring with one of our staff members, but you can easily answer the inquiries by that handout. So it's your own little personal hot sheet. Verifying Adobe Acrobat. Why? Right now. Okay. Guess we'll wait for that. Maybe if I can open it up as an image, preview it. Open with preview. Let's see if we could do this. There we go. Okay. Shortcut. Move that thumbnail. Sidebar. There we go. Okay. All right. So let's go through these steps together so you can better understand what it takes to get this real estate license, because you might have done research online, or you went to our website or asked one of our staff members. But let's be clear. First step, you're in the right place. First step is completing the pre-license course. Obviously, we haven't completed the class yet, but you're in the right place, because that is the first step. Enroll for a pre-licensing course. Obviously, you chose the best, Cameron Academy. 63-hour pre-license course. We'll talk more about that later on. Step number 2 is submitting your fingerprints electronically. Okay, now it wants to work. Great. Let me just move this over. See if I can close that out, that sidebar. Anyhow, I'll worry about that in a second. So step number 2 is to submit fingerprints electronically. This is for your level 2 background check, criminal history background check. You have to submit fingerprints to accomplish that. The results do not come to you. So you pay for this service. There's no way around it. You got to pay for the service. Luckily, we have an affordable solution for it and a convenient solution. It's $105. You pay online. You have a link that was provided to you via email, and if you log into your user account, we can always resend the email if you didn't get it. But you click on that link, you pay for it, and then you get a special link that allows you to find a location nearest you. There's location everywhere. Okay, hundreds and hundreds of locations. You'll find one conveniently located next to you, and you go there, submit your fingerprints, and that covers a level 2 background check for criminal history. And level 2 is FBI and FDLE. It's just to make sure you're not a wanted criminal. Don't worry about this. This is a gentleman we used to use. We don't use his services anymore. Plus, he retired. Anyhow, step number 3, submit your application electronically. The state of Florida will not touch your application until you submitted the fingerprints. So you have to go through that second step to get to the third step. But once you submit the fingerprints, just wait 1 business day, 24 hours later, okay? And then you could submit the application. You do this simultaneous to taking class. You can actually start on this process today if you want. And I encourage you to do so, because the goal is to get approved, your application and fingerprints approved before the end of this class. So that way it's seamless. You roll right into scheduling your state exam once you pass our class exam, which we'll talk about as part of these 5 steps in just a moment. So application. If you're confused as to where to go to submit your application, here it is. You apply at myfloridalicense.com. It's very simple, guys. I'll take you on a quick field trip. Hop on the magic school bus. Okay. Till I have kids. I got two young boys. I got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. And the cool thing about like being a dad to like young kids, I get to introduce them to like the cartoons that I used to watch when I was young. But then I look back at the cartoons and I'm like, this is not appropriate for little kids. It's like they should not be watching this. But at least it's a lot better than what's going on today. I'll tell you that. Maybe it was a little bit more violent back then and so forth, and maybe some of the language, but today you got to watch their eyes and protect their ears as well. Whew. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to get into it because it is. But myfloridalicense.com, this is where you go to submit your application. It's so super simple, guys. This is the homepage for the state website where you submit your application. They're called the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. This website is where you would go to submit for licensure for various professions, not just real estate. They also issue licenses in kickboxing, geologists, athletic agents, all kinds of different licenses. But you click on the homepage, apply or manage my license. This is all on your handout, by the way, step by step. And then you scroll to where you see real estate commission right here because you're trying to get a real estate license. And then on this first tab, apply for a real estate license. It's already pre-selected. And you click on the license you're applying for. You're going to be applying for a Florida Real Estate Sales Associate license. And it will be the first link, Sales Associate application. You scroll down to the bottom of this page. This is just all the requirements to get a license, but we are going to go through that, and I'm pretty sure most of you have researched this already. You click on apply using online services. I'm sure you don't want to print out the application and mail it in like I had to do when I got my license. That was not fun. And most of you who don't, if you don't have a license issued by DBPR, or we call them DBPR, DBPR. Okay, just so you're not confused with my terminology. Remember back in the day when we used to wear DBPRs? Maybe I used to have a page. I don't know about you. Maybe I'm aging myself, but anyhow, you click on create an account. If you don't already have an account, you submit this. They'll send you an email with a temporary password, change the password, log in, and then your application is waiting there for you. It's really simple. And the questions are straightforward. They want to know about you. They want to know about your background. And mainly the criminal history section, personal information. Where's your physical address? Where's your mailing address? Is it the same? Stuff like that. Okay, if you go back, those are all the steps. Temporary password, reset it, log back in, and your application, along with fingerprints, once it's approved, is good for how long? Valid for up to 2 years. Is that plenty of time to pass the state exam, get your license? Yeah. The class exam, Cameron Academy class exam. The question is, okay, where do I take the class exam? Do I have to come here and take it in person? No. You take it through our online system. You log into your user account. You might have noticed that when you log into your user account, you see at the bottom it says final exam, and you can't access it until the end of the class. Then it will unlock. You can click on it. We don't charge you extra for it. It's included with your tuition. And once you pass that, a certificate will automatically be added to your account. You'll see right here. Automatically added to your account. Now, let's talk about passing, failing, all that stuff. That's important for you guys to hear. See if I can remove this. View, tools, show hide, tool pane. There we go. All right. Your passing grade, or actually, let's talk about the time frame. Starting from today, what's today's date? The 21st of October. You have 30 days, within 30 days from today, to wrap up everything with us. So by November 20th, you have to complete everything with Cameron Academy. That means making up any missed classes. If you miss any classes, obviously you arrange your schedule to be here every single day, and taking your class exam. If it exceeds 30 days and you don't complete those things with us, you lose your tuition. You have to start all over again. Do not let that happen to you. 30 days starting from today is plenty of time. And I'll give you recommendations of how long it should take you to prepare for the class exam. It should take you no longer than a week, really. I'll just provide some foreshadowing right now. 1 week to prepare for the class exam. If you can take the class exam the first day the exam unlocks and is available to you, then take it, right? I'll show you why you should be confident enough to take it by the end of this 2-week session, but we'll get there in just a moment. 3 hours is the duration that we give you to complete it. That's plenty of time as well. If you finish early, go back and review. Prepare mentally right now to keep your butt in that seat for the full 3 hours we give you. So you're going to find a quiet space with no distractions, reliable internet connection. We are not responsible for disconnected, lost internet connection, your exam, kicking you out, all of that stuff. We have the tech on our side that we can see everything. It's reported and it's backed up. So we can see all the motions you make. Everything is proctored. So that way, if internet goes out or whatever, we can see everything. If it's on our end, if it's on your end. So just quiet space, no distractions, reliable internet. You have maximum how many attempts to pass? Yeah, you should pass on your first attempt. And look, your passing grade must just be how much percent on your first attempt? Yeah. So Michael, you can miss 30 questions and still pass the class exam? Yes, okay. On an exam that you should not fail. I'll just say that for now. But if you don't pass, look what it says here on the next line. You have to wait 30 days for your next attempt. You have up to a year for your second attempt, but you have to wait at least 30 days. Think about how much information you might lose in 30 days. and the motivation and the ether of being in class. But when you come back after 30 days for your second attempt, now your passing grade needs to be what? 75% or higher. And if you don't pass on your second attempt, you must retake the course with us. Is this heard loud and clear? But everybody should pass on their first attempt. Okay. And I'm pretty sure if we can maybe get Umima to give her a testimonial. All right. It's good to hear from a previous student just so you can understand what to expect. Certificates automatically going to be added. I mentioned that. And your certificate that we issue is good for 2 years. So we just learned the application and fingerprints once approved. Your approval is good for 2 years. And the certificate we issue is good for 2 years. Plenty of time to pass the state exam. That's the 5th step to get your license. All right. The exam can be scheduled with the beeper after your application and fingerprints have been approved. Once you're approved, the state will send you an email with a 9-digit code. Actually, the 9-digit code comes from the national testing vendor. So there's a separate company that the state has a contract with to administer the state exam. So they offer the state exam. They do all the grading. They do all the reporting. They do all the certification once you pass the state exam. And they give you the 9-digit code. They're called Pearson VUE. I'll take you on a quick field trip because we love field trips, guys. PearsonVUE.com. And this is the national testing vendor. They offer state exam testing, not just for real estate and not just in the state of Florida. But you have to go to their homepage and search for what type of license you want to examination you want to schedule. We live in Florida, so you have to put in Florida, and then real estate, of course. And as soon as you type in Florida real estate, there's only one option, guys. You click on that. If you don't already have an account with them because you took some other state exam for whatever profession, you can log in if you have an existing account, but most of us do not. So we create an account. And look, first name, last name, and the 9-digit code. They will send you the 9-digit code when your application and fingerprints have been approved. When you go to the state testing facility, you bring a copy of the certificate we issue, which is printable on your account through our website. So you guys just print it off, bring it with you. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. You have 3.5 hours to complete that test. They have testing sites all over. The closest testing site to us here in Dr. Phillips is by SeaWorld. It's off of Westwood Boulevard. There's like an industrial complex over there, and they do their testing there. 75% or higher to pass, always. It costs. The application costs money. Fingerprinting costs money. Luckily, the expense for submitting application, fingerprints, and all this stuff has gone down drastically. Now it's only about $40 to submit your application with the state. I mean, it's cheapest it's ever been. It was about $200 when I got my license. Now it's $40. So, yeah. Yep. And it just keeps on going down. So that's good for you guys, obviously. Lucky you. 3.5 hours to complete the state exam, 75% or higher. It costs about $50 to schedule your state exam through Pearson VUE, the national testing vendor. So it's very inexpensive nowadays. The results are received at the testing facility. Passes are not graded, only fails. So that means if you pass, you just get a piece of paper that says, congratulations, you passed. You don't get to know what your score is. If you're a nerd like me, that's going to drive you nuts, right? Because you want that satisfaction of knowing what your score is, right? You want the bragging rights, but you don't get that satisfaction, unfortunately, because they don't want you to advertise it. Like, why would you go with a real estate? What did they get on their state exam? You want to list your house with them? They got 80%. I got 95%, right? You know what I'm saying? So they want to avoid that. In other professions, they do share. And also the school is allowed to advertise pass-fail rate of their students. That information is not made available to any school in the state of Florida. So I have to, through word of mouth, I have to find out. That's why at the end of class, I tell you, hey, listen, when you pass the state exam, let me know. All right. Tell me if you passed on your first attempt. Tell me when you took it, and take a selfie with yourself as well, holding the certificate. Bragging, you know. Only fails are graded, so you do receive your grade if you failed. Unfortunately, you don't want that to happen to you. But my journey started with failure. When I was 18 and I took my sales associate exam. That's the only exam I failed, and I was so embarrassed I didn't share this with anybody until I started teaching. So several years before I started teaching, and I'm thinking it's important for me to share this with the students that when I started my journey, I didn't pass on my first attempt. The passing grade for the state exam is what? 75. I got a 74. Because they give you your score if you don't pass. So I failed by 1 point. And at 18, what do you take serious at that age, right? You mentioned at 19. So at 18, I'm thinking I could easily quit this thing. Maybe it's not meant for me. Maybe that's a sign, all this stuff. But I was like, I told too many people that I was going to pass. So I turned off my phone and I studied and I passed on the second attempt. And then I shared with everybody, hey, yeah, I passed. Yeah, no big deal, you know. But you guys, I'm confident you're going to pass on your first attempt. Anyhow, reschedule. You can reschedule to take it if you don't pass after 24 hours have passed. So you got to wait at least 24 hours. Call them up, go online. Unlimited attempts, but every time you take your state exam, they charge you for it. And if you don't pass, they allow you to pay to review the test you failed, 1.5 hours to look over the test you failed, see all the questions you got wrong, and see the correct answers for those questions. You can't write anything down or take anything with you. And it's just 1.5 hours. But at least you know exactly where you made mistakes for specific questions where you probably were confident. You were like, man, there's no way I got that wrong. What? You know? And then you can prepare better the next time around. Exactly. And you're like, how could I get this one wrong? And then you look at it and you're like, oh, okay. I didn't see this answer. It had a not. You know, like which of the following is not? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see that part. So those are the things that you got to pay attention. And that's why I mentioned prepare mentally to keep your butt in that seat for the full time they give you. Because I'll tell you, statistically, you're going to finish your exam early. Most people finish their exam early. But you need to go back and review. And I'm not telling you to second guess yourself because some of you might suffer from something called overthinking. Like you go back and you're like, oh, was this the correct answer? No, your first instinct is your best, right? So stick with your guns. However, I'm telling you to go back and look for things that you might not have seen the first time around. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see that word. That changes the entire meaning of the question or the answer. So that's the purpose of it. And if you need any support along the way, support at CameronAcademy.com. We have a live chat on our website. Those of you taking class in person, obviously we're going to be here every single day. Restroom, this is a staff restroom, so forgive me, but you have to use the restroom down the hall next to the stairs if you need to use it. For those of you online, you know where to go. But I think it's a good time for us to take like a quick 10-minute break, be back at 6, and then we'll get started with our session for today, and I'll share with you guys where we're going from there. Sound good? All right. Just a quick break to
In an era where online education often falls short, there's an oasis transforming the digital learning landscape. Welcome to Cameron Academy. With our AI-powered platform, we're not just changing the game, we're rewriting the rules. At Cameron Academy, we're not just elevating education, we're lifting learners to new heights. Our comprehensive video lessons and AI tutors simplify complex real estate concepts. At Cameron Academy, we do more than prepare you for your exams. We equip you with the essential knowledge for a successful career in real estate. Break away from the traditional. Think computerized exams. A convenient study app at your fingertips and AI support, but wait, that's not all. Live chat support when you need it, AI-driven text-to-speech content, your own personal AI tutor, and instant online certifications. This isn't just education. This is the future. We're reimagining what it means to ascend to success in the real estate industry. Choose Cameron Academy, the oasis of innovative learning. Your journey to success starts here.
Ariana, Lucas, camera's on. And for the rest of us, camera's got to be on throughout the entirety of class. Okay, we have to see your face just so we can keep track of attendance. That's for you live stream students. All right, let's jump into our session for today. In each session, we cover at least 2 units. And today's no different. We're going to cover units 1 and 2. I might not teach chronologically in that day's session, meaning I might jump to unit 6 or jump to unit 9 or whatever the case may be, but it's all to your benefit. I'm helping you connect some dots that you just don't know about because you don't know how this book is organized, but I do. I've been doing this for a very long time, and there are certain units that mesh well with one another and other ones that just doesn't make sense if we do it in the same day's session. So let's open up our textbooks, and every day is going to start off the same. I want you to go to page number 13 in your textbook, page 13. There's a method to my madness. Go ahead and open up to page 13. And what do you see at the top of page 13? You see unit what? Unit 1 exam. Yes, precisely. And there is an exam at the end of every unit in the textbook. All 19 units that we're going to cover within this 2-week session. And the first step is to go over, is to go over those questions. Obviously, today is the first day of class, so there's no questions to actually review. But what I'm alluding to is the fact that at the end of every session, I expect you guys to work on these questions independently once you get home as home what? Homework, yes. So there's a little bit of homework. Nothing overwhelming, nothing you can't handle, and it simply reviews the major points that we discuss within these units. And what you see are state exam type questions that you're being exposed to. And you need to be exposed to these types of questions, how they're formatted, in order to fully prepare yourself for that state exam. It's one of the best study tools you can get. So I would be foolish not to make sure that you guys do this every single day, challenge yourself with it, and then we review the next day to not just get A, B, C, or D, but why. And if you understand the why, you understand the question completely and the information fully, and you'll be that much more prepared for your state exam. That is our goal. So our goal is to show you how to beat the state exam. Is that all right? If I can show you how to beat the state exam? And we do a good job of doing that. We've been doing this for over 20 years. I believe our reputation speaks for itself, and just word of mouth is where we get most of our business. So that should speak high volumes as well. Anyhow, so we're going to actually start. Let's start with Unit 1. Let's go back to the beginning of Unit 1. Come on now. Cooperate. There we go. Every unit starts off the same. The unit number is in the upper left-hand corner. The title for the unit, key points we're going to discuss, real estate terminology that we will encounter throughout the unit. But let's begin on page 2. This unit is all about an introduction to this business that we're beginning our journey with. Real estate, of course. We're actually going to start on line 9 of page 2. Yes, you'll see every page. It's the way they have this textbook organized. I got to give them some props, obviously, because I'm also an editor of this textbook. But every page is labeled. You'll see the page number, and you'll notice they assign a number to each line in the textbook. I always thought that was clever because if I say I'm on so-and-so page on so-and-so line, you can easily navigate to that and stay on track. You notice I also provided you with a highlighter. You're going to use that highlighter. If we explain something in class, I'm telling you it's important and you should highlight it. It doesn't hurt to highlight more, but at least highlight what we discuss in class because these are the key points you're going to be tested on for your state exam. Once again, I'm not going to read everything verbatim because you don't need to know everything. What we stick to is not just what you need to know for your state exam, but also what you need to know to protect yourself and others within real estate transactions. rules, laws, violations of real estate in our business that you should be prepared for and be able to identify to protect yourself and others. That's what it's all about. So we'll stick to that. You can rely on that. On line 9, real estate professionals must possess some expert information. You have to have expertise. And you'll notice it says that today a real estate licensee is paid to handle other people's properties because the licensee is a professional who provides specialized service and expertise. Well, duh. I mean, that's the whole point, right? You're going to provide specialized service and expertise for various types of compensation. Let me see if I have my highlighter tool. Always messing with my stuff here. Okay. All right, cool. So they didn't take away my tool. When you update apps, sometimes it rearranges things. But anyhow, this is what I just discussed with you guys. But if you move a little bit further down, line 16, it says real estate professionals provide expert information in 3 areas. So let's go through these 3. You're going to be tested on one of them for your class exam. How do I know that? Because I pre-highlighted the textbook that you see up here on the screen and what you guys are seeing online. I spent the time to go through the entire textbook based on what you're going to be tested on for the class exam and highlight that specific information you're going to be tested on. And I even identified the number that you're going to be tested on for your class exam. So what you need to know here, lines 23 through 28, is exactly what you're going to be tested on for class exam question number what? 70. You're welcome. And I'm going to be providing all 100. Yes, it's a 100 question, multiple choice, computerized test. And you'll have all information 1 through 100 as to what you're going to be tested on. Now, some information within those lines might be specifically highlighted. I think this might appear somewhere within that question or answer. I think I had a dream about it last night. It's already pre-highlighted for you guys. You can pre-highlight this as well in preparation for your class exam. What this means is I can't give you questions and answers, obviously, but I can show you exactly the content that you need to focus on in preparation for the class exam. So that's exactly what you see in front of you. Do not skip this. You can even fold over the corner of your textbook, that page, just so you can flip back to it. And you can make your own little study guide if you wish. I'm not going to do that effort for you, but you'll have all the information to do so yourself. Does that sound good? Okay. I assume it sounds good. And you guys would like that, but just because I did the work for you. If we focus on the first area of knowledge of property transfer. Obviously, as a real estate professional, you have to have expertise in transfer of real property from one company or individual to another. What goes into the transfer of real property here in the state of Florida? You have to be wise to that fact. You have to provide, once again, specialized service. People rely on you for this. What goes into a real estate transaction that you should be able to provide expertise on? What about contracts? Right? What about zoning? What about all these things that could prevent a real estate transaction from continuing that your client should know about? We're going to save specific units for understanding what those limitations, those restrictions, zoning, contracts are, financing terms. But let's move on. What you're going to be tested on for the class exam, knowledge of market conditions. Knowing, is it a good time to buy or sell? Is it a buyer's market or is it a seller's market is essentially what I'm getting to, what I'm alluding to. So without even having a real estate license, what type of market are we currently in? A buyer's or a seller's market? Is now a good time to buy or sell? What do you think? What rates? See, this is what we're battling, right? I would say we're in this transition period. We're transitioning to a buyer's market. You can still find some really good deals, but now sellers are more willing to negotiate when just not even a year ago, people were in a frenzy over property. Didn't matter what the property was. If it hit the market, you got 20 offers on it. And then above asking price, $25,000, $50,000 over asking price. It was wild. Interest rates helped with that as well. 2%, 3%. Is anybody a homeowner in here? Okay. What interest rate did you lock in? Okay. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that, but I mean, you're winning right now because of it. And you should never get rid of that property. Even when you buy another property, keep that property rented out because it's just free money at that point. Yes.
So it depends state to state, whether it's buyer, seller's market at that.
Which areas are more desirable, right? It's all, what's the most important thing to real estate? It comes down to three things: location, 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 right? So yeah, you're on the money with that. But if you're in the most moved to state in the nation already, and people are moving from New York and all these places, escaping the cold, you're in the right place to do this type of business. It's just the things that you're selling have to meet the needs of somebody who's moving from Canada to Florida. What are you selling in Florida? Why do people move here? You're selling palm trees, you're selling tropical, you're selling beaches, you're selling pool, you're selling, you understand? Pool all year round and all of this stuff. So that's things you got to think about and focus on with sales. And this is a sales position if you haven't figured that out already. So knowledge of market conditions is exactly that, the rapidly changing market that we know to be real estate, especially with rates where they're going up and down, volatility. Knowledge of how to spread the word, advertise, market property that you're trying to sell or rent. You as a real estate professional should have more tools in your tool bag than the average for sale by owner that's just going to put a sign in their front yard, put it up on social media, on Facebook or something. We'll talk about what those tools are later on. Go to page 3. We refer to the real estate business as real estate brokerage. So highlight that. This is what we call the real estate business. We call it real estate brokerage because you're brokering, right? You are facilitating between parties. That's what brokering means. So real estate brokerage, it's the business of bringing together buyers and sellers, owners and renters, and with completing a real estate transaction, line 3. So you're a matchmaker, essentially, and you get paid for being a matchmaker. Wow. But you need the license to accomplish that. In our business, there's many components, which we'll discuss in this unit and others. Sales and leasing, property management, right, Lucas? Appraising, financing, and even consulting. We'll talk about this in just a moment. Most successful real estate professionals will tell you to build your success, you have to create a niche. You know what that means? You have to find a niche where you can thrive and bring value, where you don't have as much competition, where it's blue ocean. It's called like the blue ocean strategy. Have you ever heard or read this book? Versus the red ocean, right? Where there's a lot of fierce competition. It's bloody because of the competition. So you want a wide open ocean where you can sail and be free and not have much competition and be the best at that corner of the market. I'm not wired that way because I'm always constantly learning, and the top of one mountain is the beginning of the next for me. So I like a challenge, and once I prove myself in that aspect or with that regard, then I want to move on to the next thing and I want to learn more. But if you create a niche for yourself, then like for instance, selling a beachfront property, right? Not every real estate professional is thinking about only selling beachfront property, but that's your specialty. And what does that bring you? That brings you buyers that are looking specifically for beachfront. We call this farming, or having a farm area in our business, which we'll see in just a moment. But they say, don't be a jack of all trades, because then you'll be a master of none. Anyhow, it's just some advice. Next, we see sales and leasing, which we saw as one of our first components that we discussed in the previous paragraph. This is a sales position. I think we realize that, right? You mentioned this beautifully earlier. You said, okay, I'm in sales and I think I'm good at sales. So I want to continue being in sales, but sell something different, something that I can make more commission on. Okay, which obviously is, you're in the right place. Real estate So that's why a lot of people, if they've been in sales or they have some sales experience, they want to sell the most prestigious product, which is real estate. And doesn't everybody want to buy a house one day? Eventually. Very few people that only want to rent. But sales and leasing, this is the biggest part of our business. This is a sales position. Don't feel like if you don't have sales experience, you can't thrive. I've taught students that had no sales experience. We're stay-at-home mothers for 30 years, raising kids. Well, 30 years is a long time, right? Okay, sure. 30 years, I'll go with that. And finally, their kids are out of the house. They want to do something for themselves. They got into real estate and absolutely crushed it, took off like a rocket just because they took a chance on themselves and had the confidence, the foresight, and was bold enough to act on that thing that they felt confident about. And it's a people business. That's it. That's what it comes down to. So how you interact with people is what dictates your success, and building relationships with people. If you have that down, then you'll be in good shape. Not necessarily sales driven, even though you're kind of selling yourself at the minimum. You got to be selling yourself. But if that life is sales, right? Some people forget that. Have you ever been in a relationship before? Okay. You sold your partner on why you're superior than the next person. Same thing for jobs, correct? When you went on that interview, of course, you're selling yourself. It's the same thing. So life is sales. Don't forget that. You can thrive with no sales experience. And it's an acquired skill as well. Yeah. It's an acquired skill. That means even if you have no sales experience or you're scared about that aspect of the business, you can be that person. And I can recommend tons of great books that you can utilize to change that mindset and to be a beast in sales. So it starts with mindset always. All right, so sales and leasing. Sales, I'm going to mention something to you. Sales is the lifeblood of real estate brokerage. I'm going to repeat that. Sales is the lifeblood of real estate brokerage. That means if there's no sales, there's no real estate business, because we call the real estate business real estate brokerage, right? So sales is what keeps our business going. And there's sales specialties. What areas of real estate can you sell, essentially? There's 5 areas of real estate: residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, and what? Businesses. But congratulations, once you get your real estate license, you can deal in all 5 areas. You're not locked into one. It's not like, oh, I got to choose one and I got to stick with it. No, you can sell any type of real property as you wish. You can sell somebody's single family house and simultaneously sell their townhouse and their business and their warehouse. You can do it all. Your real estate license in Florida unlocks that opportunity for you. And let me emphasize, this is a Florida real estate license, not an Orlando real estate license, okay? You can sell anywhere in the state. If you have the flexibility, you can work from wherever you wish, then you can go to those areas where the most expensive real estate exists and you can sell in those spaces. This license gives you that opportunity. So just don't limit yourself on something geographic. Go throughout the entire state. Even if you get referrals. We'll talk about that later on. But the most common type of real estate transaction is obviously what? Residential. Single family houses, people that are using the property to reside in, to live in. And what this means is, and why I want to just take a side step and mention something to you, because it's the most popular real estate transaction, it's so prevalent in our business, you have to understand something for exam purposes. When the laws were created to protect people in real estate transactions, which we'll talk about more so in just a moment, that's going to be in Unit 2, they were mainly created to protect people that are buying property to live in, which is what type of property? Residential, right? That makes sense. So what does this mean for you as an exam taker? It means that every time you learn a rule in this class, you're probably going to learn an exception to the rule. Some type of exception where the rule might not apply. And 9 times out of 10, the exception to the rule is when we're not talking about what type of property? Residential. Because the laws were created for residential. So that means if we're not talking about residential, same rules do not apply. You'll see this time and time again. So you're probably curious, okay, what's the easiest way to identify residential property so I can see it? I can look for that in the question. Write this down. Write this down. This is the easiest way to identify it. 4 units or less on 10 acres or less. Simplest way to identify residential property. 4 units or less on 10 acres or less. You might be wondering, okay, Michael, what the flip is a unit? A unit is just a dwelling space where a family can have privacy. That's it. I'll repeat that. It's just a dwelling space where a family can have privacy. We might describe it later on as a household unit. Same thing. So if it's 4 units or less, it's residential, right? Okay. And 10 acres or less, a vacant piece of land could be classified as a unit. And as long as it's 10 acres or less, it could be recognized as residential property. Not saying that commercial property has to be over 10 acres. You can find commercial property that's, a quarter of an acre, for instance. That has to do with zoning. We'll talk about zoning in a later unit. So let's get back on subject. I'll give you some examples. You tell me what you think about it. What about a condo unit? Is that residential? Do people live in condos? Is that less than 4? 1 condo unit? Yeah. Is it a dwelling space where a family can have privacy? Yeah. Even though it's located in a building, it's a separate dwelling space, right? So not detached, but private. Okay. What about a townhouse? Yeah. What about a single family house? What about a duplex, a triplex, a quadruplex? All examples of residential. So that's the easiest way to identify. And you'll see why that's important for financing as well. Because there are certain loan programs that you can only take advantage of for residential, primary residence. Yeah. Is it an apartment complex or a condo complex? If it's an apartment complex, one entity owns it. But yeah. So that would be most likely it's going to be zoned commercial, income producing, multifamily income producing property. We'll talk more about zoning in a later unit. And zoning could change from property to property, but that's a little bit different. But if we're talking about individually owned, deeded condo unit, one family, have privacy in that one unit, that's residential. 4 units or less. Most likely it's classified as commercial. For tax purposes, it could be recognized as residential, but we'll talk about taxes in unit 18. There's 19 units in the textbook, so that's at the end. But you're on the right track. You're asking the right questions. Commercial property. Check this out. The definition at the end of line 32, improved residential of more than 4 units. Doesn't that confirm what we just wrote down? Residential, 4 units or less. Commercial, improved residential of more than 4 units. The office building we're currently in right now is commercial. Drive down any major road, you see commercial shopping centers. Yeah. Industrial, warehouses, factories, distribution centers. Those are all examples. Agricultural, farmland, where they're growing plants, raising animals, and so forth. And businesses, something interesting here, and we'll see this later on. If you specialize in helping people with buying, selling, leasing businesses, they call you a business what? Business broker. It's in your textbook, specifically on line 7, page 4, line 7. You're a business broker. Is there a separate license to be a business broker? No, it doesn't say anything about that. It just says if that's your specialty, if you're helping people with buying, selling, leasing businesses, you help people sell their pizza shop. Okay. You said you have a gym, right? Trying to figure out.
Yes.
Raphael, yeah, you have a gym. So yeah, if you want to help Raphael sell his gym, if it was located in Florida, okay, to be fair,
Yes.
then you would
Rio de Janeiro.
you need at least a real estate license. That's it. It's not a separate license. And we'll talk about what it means to be a real estate broker and how it differs from what we see here.
Yes,
Versus
Michael.
what you are going to be once you get your license, which is a sales associate. You start off in this business typically as a sales associate. All right, let's move on. We'll see more about businesses in a later unit, but on line 15, we see target marketing. Target marketing is a marketing strategy. You'll see right here, highlight these first two sentences. You have to find various ways to separate yourself from the competition, and target marketing is one way to do that. So rather than aimlessly trying to shoot your shot at prospective buyers and sellers, you can refine that search by targeting specific groups. Maybe if you know a lot of people are moving from Texas or moving from New York or something like this to move to Florida, maybe you put together a marketing strategies to target those people that are transitioning from other states. That's a target marketing strategy. Does that make sense? Or if there's a major university and a lot of, kids are moving from all over the nation to go to this major university, like University of Florida or UCF, or it's a specialty education or whatever the case may be. Maybe you put together a strategy. Hey, listen, we'll help you find rentals. We'll help you get settled. We'll help you buy property. I don't know. They give you various examples of this within the section. So I mentioned it to you. Any questions about this? All right. And what I just mentioned is in this paragraph, essentially. Could be based on geographic, could be based on several factors. Let's continue on. You see on line 28 through 30, something in bold called the farm area. Did I mention this briefly? I said farm area, farming, right? What does farming mean in our business? It means to specialize. So in our business, it means to specialize. You're specializing in selling a specific type of property, like you only sell beachfront mansions, or selling real estate in a specific area or a town, like a zip code or a town. Gotha, Winter Park, Windermere, Winter Garden. And you put that on all of your marketing paraphernalia, right? You put it on your business card, you put it on your social media, all of your profiles. My farm area, or I'm a specialist in Winter Garden. So now you have people that are looking for homes in Winter Garden. They would much rather use an expert, right? Rather than just using some random person. So that's what it does for you. It separates yourself once again from competition by being recognized as an expert. If I were to identify my farm area, it would probably be selling waterfront property. Various types of waterfront, canal front, freshwater, saltwater, lakes, ponds, ocean front. I've sold it all. And with that comes a certain level of expertise that people might not be aware of. Do you have deeded access to the water? Does your property line stop before you hit the body of water? Is it open to the public? Can you build a dock on it? Things like that people want to know about. All right. And the most important step in sales is something called follow-up. If you've ever been in sales, raise your hand if you've been in sales. Follow-up is the most important step. What is follow-up? Well, check this out. In our business, look on line 40. It's not responding to phone calls and text messages and emails. It's what an associate, sales associate, which you are soon to be, does for buyers and sellers when? After the sale. And what are you talking to your buyers and sellers that you did business with about? Don't do that. You're going to open up a can of worms. You probably don't want to deal with. Are you enjoying it? No. Let me tell you all my problems, right? You probably don't want to deal with that. Now that you're moved into the property, do you have any questions for me? Do you have any other friends and relatives and people that might also be interested in buying, selling, and so forth? So what do you do it for? You do it for reputation. You do it for, of course, because if you call them up, even after you got your commission and you could have disappeared into the sunset, even though you made $20,000 off the transaction, you call them back because you what? You care and you want them to see that, because word of mouth is a real thing in our business. And this is the people business. I still get referrals from 15, 20 years ago. That's what it means to take care of people and build those long-lasting business relationships. So you'll see that here. Word of mouth, good reputation, future referrals. but I'm pretty sure we understand what that's good for. Go to page 5, or is it 5? Yes. Property management. Most of us understand what property management is, right? But let's be clear. You'll see specifically on line 5. It involves leasing, managing, marketing, and overall maintenance of property for others. But I'm pretty sure most of us knew that. It's on line 5 and 6. As the property manager, you are the local representative of the property owner. But what does that really mean? It means that your job is to, look, your primary charge, protect the owner's investment, maximize the return on their investment, obviously. Otherwise, why would they hire you if you can't maximize on the property? Find the best tenant that's willing to pay fair market rent and make sure that they consistently pay on time. If you don't want all of this responsibility, like what Lucas is working on, you could be a rental agent, which is just working with a property owner to find them a tenant, and that's it. I can market your property. I can help you find the ideal tenant. And then once I find the tenant, they sign the lease, I get paid, and you deal with it from that point on. Is that fair? Rather than consistently managing and charging them X amount of dollars every single month to manage it for them. And we'll talk about compensation for property managers in just a moment. So you find a tenant and collect a fee. That's on line 10. Why is Florida, mainly Central Florida, so, I don't want to say prominent, but why is property management so prevalent, this service in Central Florida? Because most owners are from out of the country and they're buying vacation homes. Aren't we the #1 vacation destination in the entire planet? We got Mickey, don't we? We have all the attractions, and because of that, we break records every single year with vacationers. So for that reason, because people want to vacation here, they also want to consistently vacation here, and they might buy vacation homes. Or they might want to take advantage of tourism and buy property to rent it out on Airbnb. Have you heard of that before? Airbnb arbitrage as well. So those owners are absent, and that's why we call them absentee owners. I mean, come on. That's easy to remember, right? The owner is absent, absentee owners. And I think because of that, and as it says in the textbook, line 17, the field of property management is just going to continue to grow. As we continue to develop properties, and people continuously vacation here, and we add more attractions, which we are, aren't we? Aren't they building Epic Universe? Which is going to be crazy, by the way. Like, we need another attraction, but we're the attraction capital of the globe. So for that reason, people want to take advantage of it. Listen, I've done Airbnb rental as well. It's a lot of work. And I've not just done it for myself, I've helped other people manage Airbnbs as well. But you need a real estate license to provide this service. You cannot do this independently. You cannot do this without an active Florida real estate license.
I started a business last year, and I've been kind of struggling with it, and I realized I need to put it in my license.
Well, if you're doing it for your own property, that's okay. You're exempt from needing a license if you're managing your own. But if you're trying to do it for others and build that business, you want to get compensated for helping somebody on a real estate transaction. Leasing the property, long-term or short-term, is still a real estate transaction. And for that reason, you want to get compensated off of a real estate transaction, you need the real estate license. This is the rule. And some people get confused with that. And I've had students in the past, that's why I was kind of putting Lucas on the spot. I was like, tell me right now, are you doing property management? Because you can't without the license or be compensated for it. We'll see. We move a little bit further down. Compensation. How are you compensated for all of your efforts as a property manager? Check this out on line 25. This is it. I simplified it for you. How do you receive compensation for managing property for others? You receive a percentage off of the income. What income is the property producing? On the first of every month, what does a tenant typically pay? They pay rent. So you take a percentage off of that. For my property management company, I do provide property management services. I charge 10 to 15% for long-term tenants. If you bring me more properties, then it could come down from that 15%. If you just bring me one property, that's what I charge. For short-term Airbnb, it's very intense. It's very involved. 20 to 25% is what I charge for Airbnb management, because you have to coordinate with those vacationers. They expect a hotel. It's not a hotel. They expect you have to manage ratings and customer service. That's a whole nother ball game. So, and you have to turn over the property for every new vacationer. Let's continue on. Let's see right here. This is what I mentioned to you. Associates work under the direction of their what? Broker. Licensed sales associates cannot work independently as what? Yes, it says you have to have an active real estate license. I'm telling you, you need an active real estate license, and you have to operate under an active licensed broker. So we'll talk more about that later on. A broker's license is not required if the property manager is paid a salary. We'll talk more about this in a moment. If you want to get a license to manage an entire community of homes, this is what license you would get. It's not high in demand. I'm not going to advise you to get this license as well, but it does exist. And it's for if you want to manage a mobile home park, plan unit development, HOA, co-op units, timeshare, complex, condominium complex, other residential units. We'll talk about this later on. Any questions here? No? We're almost at break time, but let's talk about appraising. Appraising, I'm pretty sure most of us understand what that is as well. And you'll see the explanation here online. Now, I think it's pretty good. It's the process of developing and communicating an estimate of the property's what? Yeah, to a prospective buyer or seller, right? So buyers and sellers, they might need or rely on you for this service. I want to submit an offer on this property that I'm interested in buying, but what's a fair offer? So you have to determine the value of that property to determine what a fair offer is. Same thing if you're going to list a property for a seller, they want to know what to list it for. Same thing. You're not going to charge extra for this in our business, even though you could. It's a courtesy. I'm giving you personal, professional advice. Don't nickel and dime your buyers and sellers. You're going to get the listing anyway, right? You're going to make money off of selling that property. Why would you also charge them $200, $300 for figuring out the value of that property? Should be included in that service. But doesn't mean that you can't charge for it, but we'll talk more about that in just a moment. There's about 90% of real estate transactions require financing, right? 90% of buyers get financing. And if a lender's involved, they're going to require an appraisal. So that's part of our real estate transactions that we have to have knowledge of what goes into an appraisal. We're going to share more information about this in Unit 16. So we'll come back to this in a later unit. I don't want to do a deep dive into it just yet. It's an art, not a science. What does that mean? I'm going to repeat that again. Appraising is an art, not a science. Even though we're going to learn in Unit 16 some mathematical calculations to figure out the value of the property, it's not 100% accurate because it's your opinion. It really comes down to what you think the property is worth as the professional. And you can charge for your professional advice. But your estimate might not be the same as what I think the property is worth. And I'm a professional as well. So who's right? Both of us are right. That's why if people don't like the appraisal on their house, they might pay for a second opinion. That's why it's called a second opinion. Everybody has an opinion. They have their 2 cents and wants to throw it in. So, and how do you get compensated? Same thing if you have a license to provide appraisal services. You charge a flat fee based on the time and difficulty of the work. You cannot charge a commission because it's a conflict of what? Interests. Why? Well, highlight that whole paragraph, lines 21 through 25. If I said, hey, listen, was that?
No, sorry, I was nothing.
Oh, I thought my microphone died. All right. Here's the thing. If I said, I'm going to give you a percentage based on what you think the property is worth. Let me repeat that. I'm going to give you a percentage based on what you think the property is worth. How much is the property worth?
Way more than it is.
$1 billion.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you can't, it's a conflict of interest. You can't do that. So you charge a flat fee, and usually that service is charged for upfront and it's paid for upfront, not afterwards, because once again, to avoid the conflict, like, oh, I gave you a really good estimate of value for that loan you're trying to get. So give me X amount of dollars for the service. No, you pay for it upfront. Valuation and real estate license. Check this out. Says you can't represent yourself as a state certified or licensed appraiser. You may appraise for compensation, but your estimate of value is not an official appraisal report because you don't have the appraiser's license. The license that I obtained way back when, I got the license because I was curious about this service and I thought I could make maybe some money doing it as well, get a return on my investment for the education involved. But back then it wasn't worth it for me to have it, so I let the license go. I'm still certified to teach that course, but there's not too many people that are wanting to get their appraiser's license, if I can share the facts with you. It's just not high in demand. So we don't really offer or advertise it. Go to page 7. Let's continue to CMA and BPO. So since you're not providing an official appraisal report, nor are you representing yourself as a state certified or licensed appraiser, unless you also have that license, you're providing something called a CMA mainly. And if you read it backwards, the title, it makes a little bit more sense. Look right here. It says you're analyzing the market by comparing properties that have recently sold. That's how you figure out the value of a property. So you have a subject property that you're trying to figure out the value of. How do you figure out the value? You look in the surrounding areas for recently sold houses of similar size and quality. And based on what they sold for, if they look like yours, then you can expect to get X amount of dollars for your property. And it's a little bit more involved than that explanation, but we'll talk about that later on. You'll see that here. Most real estate agents use a CMA as a marketing tool and don't charge for it. How so? Well, what they do is, have you ever been on your social media feed and it says, find out the value of your house or free home value estimate? Who's behind that paid advertisement? It's a real estate agent that's trying to get you to fill out a contact form. And if you're trying to figure out the value of your home, then you might be also considering doing what with your price? Selling. And I want to know that, right? That is an amazing lead. So real estate agents, they use it as a marketing tool. I'll provide you with a free estimate of value and in exchange, get your contact information so I can solicit you for this service, listing your property. Yeah. Broker's price opinion. It's a written opinion given by a broker. Let me show you this in just a moment, but I want you to highlight this right here. CMAs do not have to comply with the rules that appraisers must follow. They call these rules the USPAP. If I can show you, it's back on the previous page. The USPAP is, we highlighted it, it's on the previous page, line 23. Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practices. I'll come back to it. But on the previous page, line 23. But when you're providing a CMA, you don't have to comply with those rules that appraisers must follow. You're not bound by those regulations. Anyhow, BPO is a broker's price opinion. It's a written opinion given by a broker. But why would this be requested versus a CMA? You'll see it right here. It says mainly requested by relocation companies, lenders involved in short sales of distressed properties, foreclosure sales, for instance. A lender would request and hire a local broker and pay them for an estimate of value. Imagine I'm your lender. I foreclose on you because you didn't pay. What do I do with the property? I turn around and what? I sell it. I might auction it or I might list it in the MLS. Bank-owned properties are listed in the MLS. So before I list it, I need to know what to list it for. So I hire a local broker because I'm a banker. I'm not in the real estate business. It's not my job to figure out what the property is worth at that moment. That's why I hire professionals. And I pay a local broker $50, $100 to determine what the value of that property is. So I can list it for that. Let's move on. Highlight this last sentence, line 33. Actually, yes. When you're providing a BPO, you don't have to comply. You do not have to comply with the regulation that's imposed against appraisers. And check this out on line 29. Just go back up on that same paragraph. It says associates may provide a BPO, but only under whose supervision? Broker. Even though it says broker's price opinion, once you become a sales associate, you can provide this service for a bank or whatever, but the broker has to sign off on it. That's all it's saying. All right, let's move on. We're almost at break time. Bear with me. On line 8, financing. Earlier, we said sales is a lifeblood of real estate brokerage, our business, right? Financing is a lifeblood of sales. Look at this right here. It's on line 4. Financing is what keeps sales going. Like what happened in 2008. No banks were willing to give loans. This is what caused the housing market crisis in 2008. It was by banks not willing to give loans because of subprime lending and really lax regulation when it comes to giving people money to buy a property. People that should have never financed a bicycle, let alone a mansion, right? And so it's bad lending practices. So banks stop giving loans until they can get new regulation in. And because 90% of our transactions rely on financing, no sales. No financing, no sales, no real estate business. That's what caused the housing market crisis. So you can backtrack and do your math backwards and it makes sense. Okay. You should be knowledgeable regarding financing, understanding the various loan programs that your buyers could take advantage of. And if you know that 90% of the buyers you're working with are going to get a loan, this is a proven fact. Even if they have the money, they rather use the bank's money. Why not make more money off the real estate transaction if you're working with a buyer that needs financing? And that's why I mentioned to you, there are certain license courses that we offer that you should take advantage of. Get your license in addition to your real estate license so you can maximize on these real estate transactions. For instance, the mortgage license. I'm simplifying it. It's officially called the Mortgage Loan Originator's License. But you should get this license. I can't stress the importance of this enough. Why? I got this license for the same reason I'm telling you to get the license. I practice what I preach. If you know, once again, let me give you the statistic. How much percent of buyers are going to obtain financing? 90%. With that knowledge, if you get this mortgage license, you can make money off of the real estate transaction wearing your real estate hat, a percentage off of the total sale price, and with the mortgage license, make a percentage off the loan amount because they obtain financing, because you help them obtain financing. So you can wear those multiple hats within the same real estate transaction. And you're going to love the fact that I'm mentioning this to you because not only do we offer it, but it's only a 22-hour class. 22 hours. I mean, you can do that in a weekend, and I encourage you to do it in a weekend. Okay, this is how simple the course is. And about 85% of what you learn in this class to get your real estate license is what you need to know to pass the mortgage license exam, because they're so connected with one another. The same laws you learn in real estate are the same laws you have to learn when offering financing. Even though you're not the one giving the loan, you're working with borrowers to help them find a lender willing to give them a loan based on their qualifications. So it's a beautiful thing. And if you think about how easy of a sale it is, rather than them looking for another professional, you're already, I don't want to say in bed with them, but yeah, you are already in business with them. And they already trust you to be their listing agent. So of course, why wouldn't they want, I'm sorry, their buyer's agent? Why wouldn't they also want you to help them obtain financing with a lender that's willing to give them attractive terms and conditions and rates? So that's how beautiful this thing is. You can make, several $1,000s more off of every single transaction, but do it from the beginning. That way, after 3 transactions in the business, you're not thinking back to all those buyers you worked with and thinking, man, if I would have gotten that license, I could have made, 10 grand more off of those transactions I did. Do it in the beginning and you're setting yourself up for that success. If you really want to get crazy, there's another course that we offer. It's for property and casualty insurance. The hours are more. It's about 200 hours, if I'm not mistaken. But we offer this course for a reason. Once again, it's symbiotic with your real estate and mortgage. Every lender, remember, 90% of transactions require financing. So every lender requires that the homeowner be covered with homeowners what? Insurance. They require it. There's no way around it. So if you know it's required, why not be the person to benefit off of that transaction as well? One-stop shop. Exactly. So if you do it from the beginning of your career, you're going to already be ahead of, I would say, 98% of real estate professionals out there that have been in the business for 30 years. Because people don't think about that. It's called property and casualty insurance. So if you look up on our website, go to the search tool. We have all the professions there: insurance, mortgage. Yeah, it's on the homepage as a search tool. Or you could just use the search bar and type out the keywords. Florida property and casualty, and you'll find it. It's online. Those are online. Yeah, but those ones you want to just knock out online, because this one is a little bit more, requires a little bit more attention. So, we stretch it over 2 weeks for a reason. We don't want to overwhelm you. We want you to be able to absorb this information. 2 weeks is just the right amount of time for that. Anyhow, let's take a break. Well, actually, let me just tell you, consulting, you can charge for the service as well. So you can provide consulting services to prospective clients. Your professional opinion. Maybe somebody wants to, I don't know, they want to open up a car dealership and they want you to find them the most desirable location. You can do market research and say, this is the spot where you want to put your car dealership, and here's why. And you can charge them for your advice. Yeah. Let's take a break and we'll come back. Just 10 minutes. Be back at 7:05. 7:05. Stretch out, grab a snack, do what you got to do, be ready to rock and roll.
Hi, my name is Crystal Rivera, and I'm a realtor with Live Realty at Nona. I decided to be a real estate agent for my love of helping others, thinking about helping them with their first home, with their first apartment, with their first investment property. Flipping homes is what started me in the business. My husband is into flipping homes, so I went from nursing, which I'm still currently doing, but now going into real estate. Decided to use Cameron Academy because of my nursing schedule and how their schedule works well with my schedule. Did not expect to be prepared as I was. Michael was amazing. He prepared me in 2 weeks to take the test, literally 5 days after I completed the class. And 3 days after that, I was already signed with Live Realty. And here we are 5 weeks later, and I had my first listing. So definitely prepared me well for the real estate industry, and just all that's to come. I'm excited, and I wish everybody luck.
Hey, my name's Jonathan Gibson. I am from Orlando, Florida. I had started my career in real estate based on wanting to... I started out my journey in real estate with Cameron Academy because I read a lot of online reviews, and there were exceptional reviews about Cameron. When I got here, I wasn't disappointed at all. I realized Michael was the best teacher, and he helped me learn everything I needed to know about real estate. And he's a very good instructor. He's thorough. He tells everything. He's one of the better professors. He's good at explaining stuff, helping you get through this and making it easy for everything. And I wanted to do real estate because I read some books and I bought homes, and I wanted to start renting out my property. And I know we had, based on my research online from Google and everything, I knew I had to do a school for Florida and do the 63-hour course. And I looked it up, came to Cameron Academy. It's been the best thing ever. He's helped us with connections. He's brought in different realtors and brokers, plus find work after the academy. So if you're wanting to learn anything about real estate, I would definitely recommend Cameron Academy.
Hi, my name is Tamara Fletcher, and I have experience in education. I've worked in education for over 17 years, but I always wanted to get into real estate. I wanted to get into real estate because I love a couple of things. I love people, I love making money, and I love being able to sell homes, or at least the potential of selling homes. I love real estate. That's what brought me to Cameron Academy. Cameron Academy has done so much for me. I have learned so much from Michael. The information that I've gained here has made me feel so prepared for the state exam as well as the exam at the end of the course. I can't go on enough about how enthusiastic Michael was during the whole process of learning, and how that really made a difference in the way that I learn. Being able to be here in person and take the in-person classes is what has really made it all the difference in the world. Michael is a great instructor. I saw great reviews about him and his instruction here at Cameron Academy, and I am really happy to say that all of those positive reviews are true, 1,000%. It's made a world of difference for me, and if I could do it again, I would.
My name is Gabriel Minyarji. I've been in the restaurant industry for the past 25 years, now getting the residential investment opportunity. I found Cameron Academy to be very helpful in my new endeavor. Michael Cameron has been very, very helpful, knowledgeable, provided very new and efficient information to help me endeavor my career. I'm very, very pleased and satisfied that I found Cameron Academy and the knowledge that I gained from them, and for all my future endeavors. I highly, highly, highly recommend them. I definitely give them a 5-star plus.
My name is Dennis Duen. I came to the Cameron Academy. My mentor, he also he told me go directly to Cameron Academy. They are very, very good, and that's how he got his license. And he advised me to go to that school. And when I came, so far, it was the best decision that I made. The instructor Michael was very, very good. He's very good, and it would benefit me. Very knowledgeable. I want to say thank you to him. And I think I will pass because of him. I will pass both school exam and the state exam. So it was the best decision that I made. Michael was very good, and I want to say thank you to him. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samuel Ramirez. I'm an electrician. I got into real estate to get into my own deals and to see if I can sell some real estate for commission on the sides. Cameron Academy taught me a lot of things. It taught me different things that I didn't know about real estate. It cleared up some misconceptions that I had. Michael was a great teacher. He taught me a lot about real estate that I didn't know, and it just opened my eyes a lot more and made me just very motivated to get into this. And I think anyone should go to Cameron Academy.
Mi nombre es Rolly Peralta y acabo de terminar las clases aquí en la Academia Cameron con el profesor Michael. He aprendido mucho y estoy muy agradecido con Michael por todo lo que me ha enseñado. Yo quiero ser un real estate agent para seguir invirtiendo en el futuro y también ayudar a algunas familias a adquirir sus sueños. Estoy muy agradecido con Michael y invito a todas las personas a venir a esta academia.
大家好，我叫 Rudy 我很开心能够跟 Michael 上学，因为他在real estate 这方面学到了给我很多知识。我也很开心能够选到他，因为不是每个人都可以教你，他能够教你的东西，他有很多的实力，有很多的经验，而且很风趣，所以对于我来讲是一件非常幸运的事情。那我个人想做房地产投资，所以我必须要有最专业的知识去帮助我自己。很幸运的能够选到 Michael， 所以我希望大家以后能够给他一个机会去跟他做投资，不会让你丢钱，这个很重要。所以祝你们好运，希望能以后见到你们，谢谢，拜拜。
Okay. It's hard when the music just cuts out and it just gets real awkward and silent, but all right. We're at the bottom of page 8. We're breezing through this unit here. So let's continue along with development and construction. Line 10, real estate development involves dividing larger parcels of land into lots and constructing roads and other off-site improvements. But there's 3 areas or 3 types of construction that could be utilized by a developer that we should be familiar with. And let's go through, well, actually, there's 3 phases of construction. We'll talk about the different types of construction in a moment. The first step always is you have to buy the what? You got to buy the land, right? Before you decide to construct anything on it, and make sure that the land is feasible. Make sure you can actually build what you're proposing as a project. If you go to the next page, page 9, then you subdivide and develop. You create plans for the subdivision, for instance. And those plans are called the subdivision plat map. Remember that. You'll see that for your homework tonight. Subdivision plat map. And that's how you pronounce it, P-L-A-T. So it outlines where the lots are going to be, where the improvements of that community are going to be, the roads and so forth. And you have to get it approved by the local government before you can advertise or start construction. But most of the time, the developer, and this is a very common practice that you might not be familiar with, the developer will dedicate land within the subdivision, within the development. What is dedication? It doesn't mean getting to work on time, okay? Doesn't mean doing your homework every single night at Cameron Academy. Dedication in real estate is a gift of land by the owner to the government for a public purpose. So with that definition, what do you think is the most common example of this within a subdivision? What would the developer give to the county within their development as a gift for public use? Yeah, exactly. These are all common examples. The most common example are the streets. So they develop the roads, sidewalks, park areas. Those are all examples, but the most common are the streets. Why? Why would the developer give away the roads within the subdivision? It's land, free land they're giving away, right? Is it the developer's agenda to maintain that property after they construct all the houses? You think they want to be forever financially tied to that subdivision and have to come back and fix a problem in the street, fill in a pothole or something like this? They don't want to be responsible for that. They want to sell all the houses, move on to the next phase, the next development. So what they do is, once they complete the project, they give away the land to the county. And then the county takes care of maintenance. The county, they don't do it for free. They charge each homeowner a portion of that expense, but we'll talk about that later on. If you move a little bit further down, residential construction, 3 general categories of residential construction. Let's talk about it. The first one is called speculative, or spec homes for short. You're building upon speculation. That's what spec means. That means you're constructing the house with no buyer. You're praying that if you build it, hopefully they will what? But what if they don't come, right? Field of Dreams, you know that reference? Then you're stuck with the property and the debt that comes with it. So you can imagine that's the most risky type of construction, building a house with no buyer in sight. This is going on. It's very common in my area in Winter Park because it's an older community and it's a desirable community. So they're taking these 1-story, very small Florida houses built in the 1950s, knocking them down and putting up mansions in their place with no buyer, just because they know so many people want to live in the area. Custom homes is for a specific buyer to their exact specifications. And that's why it's the least risky type of construction. You already have a buyer under contract. Look, under contract with a buyer. And tract homes is like a combination of the first two. Rather than constructing the entire subdivision with no buyers, have you ever seen a subdivision that's empty, but it has a few model homes in the front? What they did was they constructed tract homes. So they didn't take the risk of constructing the entire subdivision, which happened right before the last recession. And a lot of developers went out of business because they're thinking, oh, this is not going to end. We're just making so much money off of these houses. It's so cost effective to construct them. We can easily sell them for 3 times what it costs in construction. So let's just build the entire subdivision and we can save even more money on materials. But then the recession hit and then nobody wanted to buy any property. So the subdivisions they constructed turned into ghost towns with nobody to buy in sight. Anyhow, bank foreclosures and everything that comes along with it. So the tract homes are the model homes. Gives buyers a sample size, what finishes they can purchase and so forth, upgrades. Choose their lot, put a deposit down, and then they start the project. On page 10, the government has an impact on our profession on 3 levels: local, state, and what? And federal. Can you guess the one thing that's common on all 3 levels? I'll give you a hint. Taxes, taxes, and more flipping taxes, right? Locally, property tax is a local tax. Talks about business tax receipts as well. If you know, you know. But that's locally. What about state tax? Well, sales tax, right? Also, intangible tax, which we'll discuss later on. Taxes when you finance or purchase real property or transfer ownership. And then federal income tax. Who's responsible for collection of federal income tax? IRS, bloodsucker. I mean, yeah. A couple other agencies you should be familiar with. HUD. Have you ever heard of HUD? The Department of Housing and Urban Development. So it's a government agency. And the whole purpose of HUD is not only to promote fair housing for all, but also to stimulate home ownership. Our government's philosophy is that everybody in America should become a homeowner. So, because they believe homeowners stimulate the economy. If you own a house, you're paying a mortgage, you're paying property taxes, you're paying back into the economy. And you're also working at a job to afford that. So it keeps our economy going. That's why they offer government programs, loan programs backed by the government that make it easier for you to qualify for purchasing your primary residence, such as the FHA loan. Have you heard of the FHA loan? Federal Housing Administration. VA loans for veterans, EPA to protect the environment, and IRS. I don't know about them. All right. Professional organizations. This is one of our last subjects of this unit. One of our last subjects. There is a misconception that once you get a license, you're a realtor. Okay? That is a misconception. Once you get your real estate license, you're a real estate licensee. You're a licensed sales associate in Florida. You're not a realtor. To become a realtor requires getting a membership as a real estate professional. Once you get this membership with the National Association of Realtors, then you can call yourself a realtor. Does that make sense? So that's something you have to be aware of. And a lot of people think, okay, well, I'm taking that class to get my realtor's license. Maybe you even told your friends and family, I'm going to become a realtor. I'm going to get my realtor's license. There's no such thing as a realtor license. You can become a realtor, but you need to know what it takes. And I just mentioned that to you. So here it is. And especially if you're going to get into timeshare, you're not going to be a realtor. So membership, it says it's voluntary, but if you're going to be working in residential, I can almost guarantee that you're going to be a realtor. Because brokerage companies that specialize in residential, like Market Connect, for instance, they do other types of transactions, but they mainly do residential. You kind of have to have the membership. There is a cost for this membership. It's not free. It's not cheap. It's about maybe $1,000 up front and $500 every year to renew your membership. If the brokerage company has a membership, which Market Connect is a brokerage company that is also a realtor, they require all of their agents to be realtors as well because of access to certain tools that you need access to. In our business, the biggest tool that you need access to if you're going to be working in residential Yeah, the MLS. It's a database of properties available for sale, for rent, and so forth, but not just residential, commercial, any type of real estate, vacant land. You need access to that database to get the most up-to-date information. Don't rely on Zillow and Trulia and all this stuff. Zillow and Trulia and all those, they're MLSs as well. They're multiple listing services. They're promoting properties available for sale and for rent, but they're getting all the data from this database, the MLS that the National Association of Realtors is controlling. So it's auto-populated on Zillow's website to give the public access so they can see what's listed in the MLS, rather than being a realtor and going onto the database on the back end. So anyhow, I just wanted to share that with you and give you some insight. They are the largest trade organization on the planet. But you're probably curious, why every time I see the word realtor does it have an R within a circle next to it? What does that mean? It means it's a registered what? Trademark. The only way you can call yourself a realtor is through this membership. It's not free, it's not cheap, and you cannot join by yourself. You have to be working for a broker that has this membership. Timeshare, you're not going to need it. Yeah. So they say their job is making real estate agents better. And that's because they have their own code of ethics that you buy into and hold you to a certain standard. But we already talked about this. Once you pass the state exam, you're a real estate licensee, you're not a realtor. Any questions on this? The difference? Okay. Go to page 11. You see the MLS, multiple listing service. That's the biggest technology that they control. And it's the most accurate and up-to-date information. And you need access to it for your buyers and sellers. Especially if you're working with a seller, you need to know what to sell the property for. And where do you get data? Where do you get recent sales of similar properties within the surrounding area? Could you get it in public records? Yeah, but it's difficult. It's cumbersome. The easiest way to do it is to look into the MLS. And they make the information easily accessible, and you can pull it up immediately and find out what the value of your property is worth. So that's important, right? If you're working with a buyer, you need access to see, based on their criteria, what's the best property for this buyer. Any questions on that? No questions? Okay. They also have a few other pieces of technology. It used to be back in the day when I needed to present a sale contract for a real estate transaction for an offer I'm submitting, I would have to actually have a physical document that you would fill out by hand. You make copies of it. You take that copy, fill it out, have your buyer sign it, and submit it to the listing agent for consideration. I mean, that's just not practical nowadays because we have digital documents, right? So they have the technology for that as well. They have a database of any contract or agreement you think you might need in your business. They maintain these agreements and they're up to date because they have lawyers that they pay to make sure that they're conforming with the current laws. That's great. That gives you peace of mind. Also, if you ever notice a property that has a lockbox on the front door and it's a digital lockbox, have you ever seen this? It has Bluetooth technology. You use your cell phone to open it up. They own that technology as well. Yeah. So you got to think about not what it's going to cost you to have the membership, what it's going to cost you not to have the membership. If you want to function as efficiently as a real estate professional, you kind of need it. So here we go. We're done with Unit 1. That's the introduction to the real estate business. Not difficult. Let's move on to Unit 2. The beautiful thing about the first thing that we discuss in class, going through that handout that I prepared for you guys, it saves you a lot of time in this unit, understanding the process, the qualifications to get a real estate what? License. So let's go through it once again. If we've already explained it on that handout saved us the time in our textbook. So we can move on with that confidence. Let's go to page 16. Before anything, let me share some history with you. Some history. There are a total of 6 important dates that you need to know for your state exam. In this unit, we're going to learn 2 of those 6, including what's in front of us. In the past, before there was any regulation in this business. When it was a wild west, people were just doing whatever they wanted in real estate transactions. And you can imagine a lot of people got hurt as a result of it. Not physically, but financially hurt. There was a need for regulation. So 1923 is when we created, the Florida legislature created Florida Real Estate License Law, also known as, AKA, Chapter what? You gotta know that. Yeah, Chapter 475 of the Florida Statutes. Chapter 475 of the Florida Statutes. So associate this date with the creation of Florida Real Estate License Law. License law, not criminal law, okay? Has to do with our license as a real estate professional. And just because we have laws in place doesn't mean people are going to follow the rules. For the same reason we have police to enforce criminal law, we need a body, right? A regulatory body to enforce Florida real estate license law. So 2 years later, we created, the Florida legislature created the Florida Real Estate Commission. What's their purpose? Administer and enforce license what? Thank you. And because of that, it gives them certain authority to do what? Look on line 6, keep records, conduct investigations. They control your license by granting. They can grant you a license. They can deny you from getting a license, suspend your license, even revoke your license. But what's the key term? It's license, guys. They have control over your license. Write that down. Find somewhere to write that down. They have control. FREC has control over your license. Yes, that's what we call them. Okay, think of them as police for Florida real estate license law, control over license. Have authority over your license. And they might be called the commission, capital C, not the money you make off of a real estate transaction. Or most of us call them what? FREC. As do I. Call them FREC. Frickin' FREC, man. So FREC. Every state has their own real estate commission. We're no different. Florida Real Estate Commission. In Texas, they're called TREC. The Texas Real Estate Commission. Yeah. Star Trek. Anyhow, let's move on. A couple organizations you should be familiar with. The Division of Real Estate. I'm going to come back to this in a later unit. We call them DRE for short. Not doctor. Not Dre Beats. The Division of Real Estate. Division of Real Estate provides support services to the commission, but they operate under who? The DBPR. We call them DBPR for short. Yes. To help you remember. You got Dre, you got FREC, frickin' FREC, you got DBPR. And DBPR is the Florida Licensing Authority. Florida Licensing Authority. So who issues your license? DBPR. Of course, you are required to take this class with us to get the license, but the state issues the license. That's DBPR, not us. Any questions on this? We'll talk about the support services that DRE offers later on. But every profession that's issued a license under DBPR has its own division. Like if it's a geologist license, that's a license that DBPR issues. They have their own division of geology, for instance. But ours is a real estate license, so our division is Division of Real Estate. Let's move on to statutes and rules important to real estate. And it's summarized for us on the next page, figure 2.1. Let's focus on this chart. It's on the next page, figure 2.1. You see it? Let's go through. You see on the left, statutes and rules. statutes and rules important to real estate. And then to the right, it says governs. Do you know what governs means? On the right track, regulates. Write that down. My goal is to help you simplify this book so it makes a little bit more sense. I'm losing my voice. I'll just tell you the most important ones, okay? What you need to know. Obviously, Chapter 475 of the Florida statutes. We just got done talking about this, right? Florida real estate license law. But on the right, what it regulates. This law regulates all of us, real estate licensees in Florida. Florida real estate licensees. When was the law established? 19 what? Yes, 1923. And you can write it down once again, just as reference. Underneath that, Chapter 455 of the Florida statutes. This is the rules that govern DBPR. You remember DBPR? Yeah. DBPR. Call them DBPR for short. Okay, and 61J2. 61J2, I know it's tedious to remember this, but you're going to have to remember this for exam purposes. It is something that you could be tested on. This is the rules that govern FREC. You know who FREC is, right? You can write down FREC next to it, the Florida Real Estate Commission. And when was FREC established? 19 what? Yes, 1925. Good job. Perfect. So just some notes, just so you can reference this later on when you're studying. Any questions pertaining to what we just got done describing? Okay. Yes. All right, let's move on. Let's continue on as we progress on to the next page. Line 4, we see general licensing provisions. There are 3 types of real estate licenses we're going to discuss right now that you have to know about these. Sales associate, broker, and broker associate. But what license do you typically start with if you're beginning a career in Florida as a real estate professional? Sales associate. And that's going to be confirmed for us on line 12. An individual typically begins a real estate career in Florida as a licensed what? Sales associate. You're thinking, they probably could have come up with a better name than flipping sales associate, right? Like, sales associate sounds so corny, right? I mean, you could be a sales associate at Best Buy. Not taking anything away from somebody that's working in the Geek Squad at Best Buy or anything like that, but you understand it's something a little bit more prestigious. Like, you can still call yourself a real estate professional, real estate agent, real estate licensee, and you can put that on your business card. But officially, when you receive your license, it says sales associate. It's just corny. Anyhow, other states, at minimum, they either call you one of 2 other things. In other states, they either call you a salesperson, real estate salesperson, that's better even, or a sales agent. Yeah. Sales agent. But here in Florida, we say sales associate. I think we're one of the only states that call our newly licensed real estate professional sales associates, which is just odd. Anyhow, I'm not a fan. So what, if you're wearing a retail or something like that. So what are the steps to get the real estate license? Didn't we go through all of those steps already? What does the first word on the next sentence say? It says applicants. We know that's part of one of our first steps, right? That's step number 3. But part of the application is also submitting what electronically? Fingerprints. Yeah. And we talked about that on the handout. Any questions about fingerprinting or application?
Be sure. So we purchased it online, like you said.
Yes.
So now we just go in and find a location close to
Yep.
us. Not during class, but while
During the duration of while yes, exactly. So you're exactly right. That's the correct assumption. So you use a link, you pay for it. It's only $105, and covers that level 2 background check. You don't get the results; it gets sent to the state. So don't expect that you're going to get something besides a receipt. Okay, but the whole point of it is so that your background results get sent to the state. That's going to also receive your application You could submit it 24 hours later, and they're going to ask you on the application about criminal history, and you have to be truthful about it. But they have a way to verify it because they have the results, and they're saying, okay, is this person telling us what's really going on? Oh, well, they have this. They didn't put it on the application. It's got to match, right? So that's the whole purpose of this. But luckily, it's convenient now. They have locations anywhere nearest you. UPS stores, FedEx stores, and so forth. They have the machine there. This company that we work with, it's awesome. Yeah. Anyhow, you have to complete the education. You're taking it right now. Pass the state exam. We discussed this. And look what it says on line 14. You're going to be initially licensed. Once you pass your state exam, what's going to be your status? Voluntary inactive sales associate. What does that word voluntary mean? Okay, that's one way to describe it. It's not involuntary. It's not. Exactly, yeah. Voluntary is like you're willingly doing something, right? If you're a volunteer, you're doing something at your own free will. You're giving up your time freely. So voluntary means you're basically just sitting on your license, not doing anything with it. Voluntary inactive. You're not practicing, and you're choosing not to practice. And you can have a license and do that, but you want to get a return on your investment. The time of taking this class, the money spent on tuition, submitting your application and so forth. Your first deal is going to give you the complete return on your investment and then some, but that's besides the point. I'm just sharing with you. This is going to be your status. How can you start practicing real estate and making commission? What status do you think is required to do so? If you start off, you pass the state exam, you're voluntary inactive, sitting on your license, how can you make commissions, provide real estate services, and be compensated for it? Yes. How do you become active, though? Yes. Isn't that the sentence we see here? Inactive sales associates can become active by finding an employer and filing the information with who? Yes, the Florida Licensing Authority. Yeah, you said it perfectly. Good job. Exactly. You remember. Check this out. Sales associates, and we'll talk about what broker associates are in just a moment. I'll come back to this. Are employed by, work under the direction, supervision, control of a what? Or a what? Yes. So let me give you an understanding of what the difference between these two are. And these options you have once you get your license. Should I hang my license with a broker or owner developer? Well, it depends. You have to know what they are to make that choice. Market Connect Realty and Cameron Realty are real estate brokerage companies. All right. Owner developers are kind of like what they sound. Well, I think the name itself kind of reveals what they're all about. They develop it themselves, and then they sell their own inventory. I'll give you an example, like a major home builder. That would be an owner developer, most likely. So they construct the subdivision and then they sell their own inventory. That's an option for you to hang your license with that developer as well and help them sell these newly constructed houses. To receive commission off of that, you got to be active. But that's the option. Hang your license with the owner developer to become active. All this information is submitted with the state, and the state keeps track of who you hang your license with. But you have to file the appropriate forms. And really, it's not you that's submitting these forms. It's the employer that's saying, this agent is working with us. You might sign off on it, but they do all the filing and submission to the state. A lot of timeshare companies are also classified as owner developers. For the same reason, they develop the timeshare resort and then they sell the individual units 1 week at a time, right? So that's an option for you to hang your license. Check this out. Owner developers are unlicensed entities. I never mentioned that they have to be brokers. They just are developing communities. And you don't need a real estate license to develop. You might need a contractor's license, but that's different. Okay, so I gave you several examples of this. Now, something interesting, an owner developer, highlight this on line 20, may hire unlicensed salespeople and licensed sales reps to sell their inventory. Yeah. So, mutual friend here, her friend took the last class, and she already got her license, and she's already selling. She's already making deals, correct? She's already sold like 2 or 3 is what she told me via email. So right out the gate, I mean, that's impressive. And maybe she even has an agreement that if she gets her license within a certain time period, maybe she's getting credit for the other sales she had prior to that. Why do I mention that? Because she got hired as an unlicensed sales representative of the timeshare company. So before she had the license, she got hired, and she was allowed to do so. Something interesting, if you're working for an owner developer, they can hire unlicensed salespeople. But the issue with that is they cannot pay them a commission. So check this out. Look at the next sentence. Unlicensed salespeople can only be paid strictly on a what basis? So that's how they accomplish it. So she was paid a salary, and she was probably calculating, we had this discussion in class, she's calculating how much money she's missing out on because she didn't have the license and she couldn't receive commission. To receive money on a transactional basis, to be paid on a transactional basis requires a real estate license, anything off the transaction, even a bonus. So she was not even allowed to receive a bonus based on her efforts, only a salary. Yeah. So she's making the company a whole lot of money, and the company's happy with her. Exactly. So she's like, okay, I'm getting my license. Nothing's going to stop me. But that's a woman on a mission right there. And she got her license like super quick. And you can too, if you're on that same mission, because you're better off having a real estate license than not. So the sooner you get your license, the more opportunities become abundant to you. So you have to, the only way you can have a conversation with somebody to help them with a real estate transaction and to somehow be compensated off of it is to have the license first. So get the license as soon as possible. Yeah.
So it gets my license first, or get my money. If not, just like salary is like interested.
Yeah. Absolutely. So definitely tell her that she needs to come and give a testimonial, okay? All right. So it talks about being paid on a transactional basis. You need a license for that. Any questions about this? Must hold sales staff, if you want to be paid anything based on the transaction, needs a current active sales associate license. Okay. Or just active real estate license. Okay. What do you need to know? All right. This is a question. It's not in your textbook, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. The question I get from time to time is, okay, Michael, what if I get hired salaried with a timeshare company, for instance, but then eventually I get my license, but I really had this itch to sell like residential. Could I just continue to be salaried with that timeshare company and then hang my license with a brokerage company and sell residential simultaneously, receive the salary and timeshare, and then also get the benefits of both sides, the stability with salary, but also receive commission off of residential? Technically, there's no law to prevent you from doing that, but it's probably going to be a violation of company policy, because that timeshare company is not going to allow you to do residential sales and sell timeshare for them at the same time. They're just not going to allow it. I'm going to tell you right now. And then also the real estate brokerage company, maybe they have a problem with it as well. And they're going to ask you to make a choice, or maybe they just terminate you, right? Now, can you hang your license with 2 companies at the same time? Can you be active with 2 companies at any given time? No. The rule is, the law states you can only be active with what? You have to make a choice. And that's where you receive your commission from. Okay, so just understand that. Remember that. It's important for you guys to hear. Let's continue. To become a broker. Does anybody have the intention of becoming a broker in the future, opening up your own brokerage office? Hiring sales associates, taking over the state of Florida. Yeah, all of you can accomplish it. You just need to know what it takes to get to that point. If I can provide some foreshadowing to you, because we're going to discuss this later on, the details in this unit. To become a broker requires additional education, experience, and passing another state exam. If you can recall earlier, when we went through that handout, the 5-step guide towards getting your real estate license, it's a similar process to get your broker's license. It's those same 5 steps. The education is going to be different, but you still, step number 1 is still completing the education. It's a 72-hour class. We'll come back to that. But then you add one additional step that's not on that 5-step guide. To become a broker, it says it right here in front of you. It says experience. And we'll come back to find out what that experience actually is and how much time you have to contribute in this business before you can achieve that. So we'll come back to it. It's going to be in this unit. So we'll see it today. While many associates want the prestige of getting the broker's license, maybe they're not financially capable of opening up their own brokerage office. Think about the financial commitment that goes into opening up an office like this. In a shopping center somewhere, signing a 5 to 10 year lease agreement. Maybe you're not ready for that commitment. So what you can do is you can earn the broker's license if you meet all the qualifications, and then you can downgrade to the level of a broker what? Associate. Yes. So you you earn the broker's license, but you submit a form that tells the state of Florida, the beeper, hey, I'm not ready to open up my own brokerage office. I want to still work at the level of a sales associate. So they combine the 2 titles, the 2 names, right? You've earned the broker's license, but you're working at the level of a what? Associate, broker associate. And that means that even though you've earned the broker's license, you choose to work under the direction of another what? Make sense? Now the question I get is, okay, Michael, what if I'm ready to then open up my brokerage office? Do I have to go through the same process all over again? No, you've already earned the broker's license. Okay, so all you have to do is submit another form to the state that says, hey, state, I'm ready to open up my own office, open up my own brokerage business. And it's as simple as that. No. Pass the state exam once. That's it. Same thing when you become a sales associate, you only have to pass the state exam once. Renewal takes place with us. But you know how we operate. You just take a class test and then we send your hours to the state. It's as simple as that. Yeah. No state exam again.
We have to renew. Is it like we have to do this again? Like come back to class, or like, I mean, new laws and new information?
Yeah, that's essentially what they want to make sure that you're aware of and up to date with. If what changes? Laws change. I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. You have to learn those law changes. So that's why they require this consistent education throughout your career as a real estate professional. Luckily, we have these courses available, and I'm going to give you some advice as to when you should complete certain courses and how soon you should do them to complete the education and knock it out, get it out of the way. And that way you don't have to do that same education again for the next cycle. So I'll give you some advice on that. It's going to save you a whole lot of time and frustration. On page, do you have any other licenses besides what you're trying to get right now?
It's almost similar to this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a similar process, I would say. So there's applications, fingerprints, the background check, the class, and then the state exam. Was it like the health life variable annuity? Okay, yeah. I forget what they call it, 220 or 215? Okay. That's financial. And I mean, not for nothing, but we do offer those courses as well. On page 19, application requirements. We already talked about this. Any questions about the application? You know the website, myfloridalicense.com. Any questions? Oops. All right. We talked about the application fee, about $40. Any questions about that? All right. You could save money for the application. I mean, it's only $40, but regardless, if you can prove the following, there's fee exemptions, low income and military. Military personnel, that's talking about active and their spouses, and then even veterans. If this applies to you, you can read through the details. They're right here, and you're going to be tested on some of the details for your class exam. I like that. Fee waiver for low income. You have to prove it if they ask you. I mean, it's already pretty low, if I could say so myself. So it says, look on line 34. The DBEPR is required by law to waive the initial biennial license fee. Wow. But it talks about active, and then it also talks about veterans. And you can read through this later on tonight. And for the veterans, you have to be discharged within the past 60 months. That's 5 years, guys. So just something to consider. And obviously, you're going to be tested on it. Okay. If we can move on to the next page, it's page 20. Fingerprints. What's the whole purpose of submitting your fingerprints electronically? Your level 2 background check. Look, level 2 means not just for the state of Florida, that's the FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, checking your records through that department, but also FBI, national. Just to make sure you're not a wanted criminal. I don't think you would be here today if that was the case. All right. And they're done electronically now. When I got my license, it was not easy. Okay, I'm going to tell you how it was. You had to print the application and make sure it's the latest version from DBEPR's website, because that will get you in a mess as well. You had to fill it out by hand. They didn't have a digital version of it. So you got to make sure that you fill out everything completely and make sure there's no omissions, there's no mistakes, there's no errors. And a lot of people got their applications sent back because of that. The cost, I told you, is about $200. And they required fingerprints be submitted on a fingerprinting card. That's rolling your fingers in ink, putting it on a card with 2 separate money orders, attach it in an in an envelope, and send it by mail to the state and hope that you get a response within 3 weeks. Now, my students are getting approved in 24 hours. Okay? Provided there's no criminal history, because criminal history might have to be reviewed. Now, if there's something that you're concerned about and you want to approach me on this, then I'm an open book. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to navigate that. I'm recognized as one of the state experts in regard to helping people that have criminal history navigate that application process and make sure that you submit it properly to increase your chances of approval. If you have a criminal history, doesn't mean that you won't get approved. You just need to know how to submit it to increase your chances. And I've taught students that served over at least 3 that come to mind, and we've taught hundreds of thousands of students, but at least 3 that come to mind that have served over 10 years in prison and were able, with guidance from us, to get their application and fingerprints approved, pass the state exam, get their license. So these are your fellow real estate co-workers. I'm just kidding. I'll share with you, most of it was like nonviolent crimes and like drug charges and stuff like that, violation of probation, and is what it is. Anyhow, background check of criminal history. What types of things do they want you to submit and present on the application? It's right here. It says any criminal charge, found guilty, plea of guilty, nolo contendere, adjudication being withheld. Do you know what it means to withhold adjudication? Have you ever heard of this before? That means instead of putting you in jail, the judge felt like you were not a danger to the public, so they put you on probation, something like this, or community service hours. And nolo contendere is Latin. It means no contest. It's Latin. It means no contest. That basically means that if it was a small offense and it was maybe your first offense, they might give you this as an option. And it's basically you saying, I'm choosing not to fight. Impose whatever penalty you feel is necessary for the allegations against me. Maybe because you're too scared, you're young, you don't know how to navigate that. But it's going to haunt you because let's just say it was petty theft, larceny, stealing something, and you got caught as a young person. And it was your first offense, and they gave you this option. They say, hey, listen, if you plead nolo contendere, which is an option for you because you're whatever, first offense, first time offender, then they're just going to give you a slap on the wrist. Do some community service hours, and then you're good to go. But later on, when you apply for that job, they're going to do a background check on you. And if this is revealed, which it will be revealed, they'll see the allegation and they'll see the outcome. What's the outcome? You said, I'm choosing not to fight. You didn't fight for your innocence. You didn't admit that you were guilty. You just said, I'm on the fence. So what does the employer think? Human nature, they're thinking, you probably did it. That's why you didn't want to fight, right? So that's a negative stigma that comes along with this. And you just have to be prepared for that, understand that, so you can be proactive and make sure that you provide your own description on the application. It just looks bad. The optics are not good. I mean, just put yourself in the shoes of an employer. You see an applicant and it says, theft, and then they pled nolo contendere, and you know what it is. You're like, okay, they didn't fight for their innocence. They probably did it. Also, they want to know about history concerning felonies, misdemeanors, certain traffic offenses. Are we talking about speeding tickets and parking tickets? Come on, guys. Are we talking about DUIs, driving under the influence of drugs, alcohol? Yes, that would have to be disclosed. Any questions? Okay, let's move on. It's common sense. These are questions, they're just giving you examples of questions they're going to ask you on your application. So you can read through it or just wait till you see the application and then submit it truthfully. That's it. But if you need additional guidance, come see me. Okay, I'll help you out. All right. It says they're going to be asked questions concerning their legal matters. I already mentioned that. Any questions pertaining to this? So on the application, they want you to submit the court date, the outcome, and then you can write your own explanation. If you're worried about it, doesn't matter how long ago it was, if it's questionable and it's going to be revealed, it's going to show up, and you want to provide further explanation, you can type up a separate letter. You can even let me see it and review it for you before you attach it to your application and help you out that way. If you're really worried about criminal history, then you can do this. Look in this paragraph. You can prepare and submit with your application 3 reference letters.
Okay.
People that can attest to your good character. It says you can use one family member. They're just going to throw that in the garbage. Chances are you can find at least one family member to say something nice about you. Hey, listen, I just wrote this up. Can you just sign at the bottom for me? No. They want like previous employers, stuff like that, If you think something has been expunged from your record, verify it's been expunged. Expungement is not automatic. That means it's been completely removed from your criminal history. You have to pay a lawyer for the service. Okay. It just says you have to confirm it. And also, statute in some states permit persons with criminal history to get their records sealed. Have you ever heard of that? So it still remains, just people can't see it when they pull criminal history. But once again, verify that it's been sealed before you decide not to disclose. That's all it means. Any questions? Okay. They might ask you, depending on how severe the criminal history is, they might ask you to come in for an interview. This is how I help people. This is how I guide people. I'm not going to charge you extra for it. Go to page 23. Time periods. Specifically on line 11. How long does the state have to process your application? Yeah. Let me break down that 90 days for you so you can better understand. You'll see on line 2. Within how many days do they check for errors and things you left out? Omissions. Yep. 30 days. Once you fix those issues, you send it back to them and they have 30 days all over again. So 30 days to check for errors. If you have problems with your application, they'll send it back to you. You have 30 days to fix it. And then when you send it to them, they have 30 days all over again. So 30, 30, 30, maximum of 90 to give you an approval or a denial. I've seen people that it went past the 90 days and the state did not give them a response to their application. If that's the case, they have to automatically approve the application. I've seen that before. But once your application and fingerprints have been approved, they'll send you an email. Pearson VUE will send you the email, right? That you are exam eligible. So you can schedule your state exam essentially. You should get that approval throughout the duration of this class. So technically, once you get the approval from the state, you can schedule your state exam. But when you go to the testing site, they're going to ask you for a copy of the certificate that we issue. You understand? So if you haven't completed this course, passed the class exam, you won't receive a certificate and you can't sit to take your state exam. When you go to the testing facility, look, they have testing sites all over. They'll even allow you, look, testing center or online proctor, excuse me. Testing center or online proctor. They even allow you to take your state exam online. That's a new thing since the pandy. Since the pandy. You know what I mean by the pandy, right? Okay. Yeah. So you can take your state exam at the convenience of your home, but no distractions, quiet space, nothing on the walls, cell phone beyond arm's reach. Audio has to work, visual has to work. You have to keep your eyes on the screen for the full 3.5 hours. You cannot read your questions out loud, and they're going to keep an eye on you while you're taking your state exam the whole time. I'm just saying it's more regulated, but it is a possibility. When you go to the testing facility, they're going to ask for 2 forms of signature identification. What are two forms of signature ID? Yes, with your signature on it. A lot of people don't sign the back, but they won't accept it unless you sign. Driver's license, right? Passport, yeah. Those would suffice. And everything has to match. So let me be clear on something. Everybody that's taking the class right now, you registered for class through our website. You provided information, but you got to complete the entire registration form. And you have to make sure everything is accurate. Your name as it appears on your license, because this is the information that populates on your certificate that we issue when you pass the class exam. And everything has to match. The certificate that we put, the information we put on there, including your address and the last 4 of your social, that has to be there. It has to match everything, your application, your driver's license, all the IDs. Otherwise, they won't let you sit to take your exam. Okay. Highlight this paragraph because you're going to see it for your homework tonight. This is for license by endorsement for U.S. Armed Force members and their spouses. If you have a real estate license in some other state, but you're with the military and then you got to move, this is what happens if you're in the military. They could station you. You might have to do basic training somewhere else. And you might be living on base as well, even with your spouse. If that's the case, what they do is they could issue you a license in that state that they're moving you to, because you're basically transferring your career. You're losing the opportunity in that state that you got the license. Now you have to be here because of your obligation to the military. Let's move on. On the next page, look on line 9. Applicants are or are not required to be residents of Florida. So you can live anywhere on the planet and have a Florida real estate license. You can live in Dubai if you want to and have an active Florida real estate license. You don't have to live here to sell real estate or practice here. You just have to meet the requirements, get the license, and then you can hang it with a broker here, for instance, and then you can live wherever you want. This is the case. Any questions here about that? Now, it used to be in some other states, you did have to live in the state to sell real estate there, like Hawaii. You had to live in Hawaii to sell real estate in Hawaii, but that's not the case anymore. Florida has always been progressive when it comes to that, I guess. What makes you a resident for real estate license purposes in Florida? You need to know this. And you're going to be tested on it. Line 11, somebody who has resided. What does resided mean? Yeah, lived in Florida continuously for how many months? 4 months or more within a year. Or even more interesting, someone who had, look on line 15, I'm highlighting it. Someone who has the intention of living in Florida for at least how many months? Consecutively within a year. How do you prove somebody has the plan of doing that? Maybe you haven't lived in Florida for 4 months, but you just signed a 1-year what? Lease agreement. As soon as you sign that lease, you have the intention and you are defined as a resident for real estate license purposes. Why is this relevant to us? Well, obviously you're going to be tested on it, but how are you going to be tested? Let me share that with you. It has to do with this agreement called mutual recognition that Florida has with 8 other states in our nation. 8 other states: Alabama, Arkansas, Connecticut, Georgia, Indiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Nebraska. Those are the 8 states. You don't have to know those 8 for exam purposes. They're not going to test you on that. What they're going to test you on is what mutual recognition is. If we have this agreement with those 8 other states, what benefit does that give us? So let me share that with you. If you could look up here and I can just break it down for a second. This agreement that we have with 8 other states is mutual. It works both ways. And it makes it easier for us to get licenses with those 8 other states. Same thing with them for us. Does that make sense? Vice versa. It's mutual. So if you get a Florida real estate license, they make it easier for you to get a license in Georgia. You don't have to go through the same process, those 5 steps that we talked about earlier. You can skip some of those steps. It's pretty cool, right? So for instance, but this benefit is only applies exclusively to what? What are you tested on? Non-residents. Do you see that? So if you're a resident of Florida, we know what a resident is defined as. How many months? Within how much time? A year. 4 months or more within a year, right? The plan or actually physically living here? Either one. 4 months. If you're a resident, you don't qualify for this benefit. Can I give you an example? Typical example you're going to be tested on for exam purposes. Let's say Troy is a Georgia real estate licensee. Troy moves to Miami 6 months ago. Troy wants to get a real estate license to practice here in Florida. Can Troy get a real estate license in Florida through mutual recognition? Yes or no? I said mutual recognition is for residents or non-residents? No. Mutual recognition applies exclusively to what? Non-residents. I said Troy moved to Miami, Florida. How many? That's 6 months ago. Is that more than 4? Is Troy a resident? So he can't take advantage of this. He has to do all 5 steps to get the license, the steps you're going through right now to get the Florida real estate license. Does that make sense? Okay. What benefit, like, how do you save time? You're probably wondering. Go to the next page. You'll see it. Page 25. It's in this paragraph. It's here, but it's actually summarized for us in the shaded box. You'll see in the shaded boxes the second paragraph. Look, if you have a real estate license in one of those 8 states, Georgia, for instance, is one of the 8, and you live in Georgia, not in Florida, we make it easier for that person to get a Florida real estate license. But they had no intention of moving to Florida. You understand? Okay. They live in Georgia. We make it easier. So how so? Look, it says applicants must demonstrate knowledge of what? What changes from state to state that you need to know before you're going to practice here? The laws. So they want to make sure you understand Florida law before you sell real estate here. So you don't have to do the course if you qualify for this benefit. So you don't have to take this 2-week course like what you're going through right now. No class exam. But you have to apply, submit what? Fingerprints, and pass a state exam. But the state exam is only about the laws that are different from Florida, for Florida specifically. Yes. And it's only a 40-question law-specific exam. That's it. 40 question, not the full 100 questions. Yeah, you'll see it here.
So in that case, should we know the 8?
No. No. They'll say Florida has mutual recognition with this state. They'll provide you with that information. It's not relevant because the states change. So it would be foolish for them to include it in the state exam because they change it constantly. That means they're going to have to update the exam constantly, and they just don't want to do that. So you don't have to know those 8 states. You can find them online if you're interested. Okay. So Florida has mutual recognition with those 8 other states. We do not have reciprocity. You know what reciprocity means? Let me read it out to you. It's an agreement between 2 states that allows a real estate licensee with a valid license in one of the states to practice real estate in both states. So it means, for instance, I think maybe California and Colorado, one of those, or Nevada, they have this agreement. That means if you get a California license, you can also sell in Nevada. You don't also have to get a Nevada license, for instance, and vice versa. But Florida does not have this agreement with any other state. We have mutual recognition. So it's not like you can get a Florida real estate license and just start selling in Texas. You can't do that. We only have those 8 states and this benefit that saves you time to get a license in those 8 states. Let's not talk about cheating because I get what you're saying. It's you do not have the intention of moving to that state. Okay, that's the rule, and that's how you're going to be tested. I get where you're going with it. All right, check this out on line 21. Is U.S. citizenship a requirement to get a Florida real estate license? No. So you don't have to be a citizen, nor do you have to be a resident to get a Florida real estate license. That's amazing. It gives so many new people, well, so many people this opportunity to practice this new career. But you have to be at least how old? Have a high school diploma or its equivalent. It's just going to be a yes/no question on your application. They don't say upload your certificate on the application. And you have to have what number? A social, right? And you're probably thinking, well, wait a second. How do you get a social if you're not a citizen? Because a social is required, but citizenship is not required. So how does that make? Isn't that a conflict? You need at least a work visa. Because if you get a work visa, then they'll assign you a social. And I assume you're getting the license to work and make money, right? So that's the point. The rest are self-explanatory. We don't need to highlight them. Be truthful, honest, trustworthy. Come on. And then you'll see on your application the others as well. Let's move on. Check this out. Look in the shaded box. License application. It talks about the social once again. What do you think is the reason you need a social security number now to get a Florida real estate license? Because before they didn't require a social. I can tell you the history. Before it was a personal tax identification number. That's called PTIN. Some people just call it a 10. But now they need the social. Why? Yeah, to make sure you're legal to work in this country and you pay your fair share of what? Taxes. But look at the reason that they provide in the textbook as to why they need a social now. It's used to determine whether applicants are in compliance with what? Child support obligations. Yeah, that's the real reason we need a social. Not for those reasons we just outlined, but for child support obligations. Come on. We can handle the truth. You don't got to sugarcoat it for us. And your application fingerprints and the certificate we issue, all good for 2 years. We already know that. Any questions? Okay. Do we go over in time? Okay, let me get through a couple more topics and then we'll take a break, okay? Check this out online, 22 education requirements. That's a class you're taking right now. Didn't we discuss this? But just to be clear, this is required to get your license. It's called Course 1. It's a FREC approved pre-licensed course. We've been so for over 20 years. What are we going to discuss? Fundamentals of real estate, principles and practices, law, and math. Math you're actually going to use. We're not sending people to the moon. Online 27. It's a 63-hour course you're taking. If you're here every single day, you don't miss a day, your hours are going to be covered. That's all you need to know. Okay? 3 hours for your end of course exam. Any questions about the end of course exam? 100 questions, multiple choice. Almost half of your exam is about principles and practices. The other almost half is about law, and the last 10 questions are math. Yes. Don't be scared. This math is practical math. Math we're actually going to use. And hopefully I can get Umema to come and tell you guys how many math questions she saw on her state exam. And what I've noticed as a trend is, even though the last 10 questions are typically math, for our class exam, it's going to be math. State exam, I've heard students that come back and say, I only saw like 2 or 3 math questions on my state exam. So ask her. She'll share that information. But your passing grade on your first attempt must be what % or higher? Yes. Correct. They're pulling from a database of a certain amount of questions. We'll talk about this in just a second. You're on the right track. Go to page 27. The first sentence talks about hours you can miss. That's already baked into the hours you complete throughout this 2-week course. You can't miss a day. The policy that you signed upon registration for a class, what you agreed to is if you miss a day, you have to make it up. We have 2 ways you can make up missed classes because it's about the content. It's not about the hours. I care about the information you're missing because I want you to pass on your first attempt genuinely. And if you're missing days, and maybe some schools allow you to miss a couple of days or whatever the case may be, and they'll let you just kind of skip along and move to your state exam, and you miss several questions because you're like, oh, I don't even recognize this information. It's not the school's fault you missed that day, but I think it's the school's fault that they allowed you to continue without making it up. So I like to hold my students accountable, and you are going to be thankful because of it. I know you are, because most of our students pass on the first attempt. Saves you a lot of time and money and frustration. Okay, so let's aim towards that. Now, the 2 ways you can make up missed classes. First of all, let's talk about the time frame. Do you remember we talked about this earlier? You have 30 days starting from today to wrap up everything with us, including making up any missed classes. There's a free way and there's a quick way. Okay, let me tell you the 2 options. The free way to make up a missed class is to come back and sit through the day you missed, essentially. You have to attend online through live stream, but essentially you're just coming back to the next class and making up the specific units you missed. Today we cover units 1 and 2. That's what we're doing today, right? Tomorrow's units 3 and 4. If you miss tomorrow, you need to make up units 3 and 4. So you can come back to the next time we offer this course and sit through units 3 and 4, and we keep track of it. Or the quick way, which most students take advantage of, it costs money. And it's $25 per unit you miss. We give you videos. You watch the videos. It's like hybrid. and then you take little quizzes after it, and we give you credit for it. Okay, fair enough? Now, we talked about making up missed classes, must be done within 30 days. That's already done. If you don't pass on your first attempt, how many days must you wait to retest? That's on your handout. If you don't pass on your first attempt, 70% or higher, that's right here, right? You have to wait how many days to retake? 30 days. You have up to a year to retest with us, but you have to wait for 30 days to pass. Okay, just think about that. There's no reason why you should fail our class exam. I can recognize that this is a stepping stone. So I don't want to make the final exam such a burden on you. That's why I give you exactly what you're going to be tested on. You focus on that. You're good for the class exam. Are you with me? So that's all. Just knock that out first. Move on to the next step. I want to make sure you're fully prepared for the state exam. That's the point of this class. I'm not going to show you how to beat the class exam and that's it. Here, look, failing, you have to wait 30 days. I already talked about this. You have up to a year to retest. But when you come back, now your passing grade needs to be what percent? Yes, I'm just refreshing your minds if I can review real quick. If you don't pass on your second attempt, you only have 2 attempts. You must retake the course. Don't let it happen to you. It doesn't happen to my students. It should not happen to you. I don't need you to pay tuition again. I need you to pass. And that should be your goal always. Let's talk about summary of education exemptions. If you have a 4-year degree in real estate, first of all, God bless you. Okay, why do I put so much emphasis on like God bless you? Like why do I have sympathy on somebody who does a 4-year degree course for real estate to get a degree, a college degree in real estate? Is there any value in this? You might be wondering. I did research because I'm thinking it's what I do for a living. I teach real estate license courses, teach people how to get the license. What does it take to teach at a collegiate level, at a university, be a professor and so forth? And I met with one of the professors in that department. I said, can I take a look at your curriculum and see if it's any different from what I teach in my 2-week class? I looked at it. It is exactly the same. So they take a 2-week course and stretch it over 4 years of education. How crazy is that? And they charge you, think about how much they charge you for a 4-year college education. So, I mean, it's just, I don't see much value in it besides what we have in front of us. They say you don't have to take the pre-licensed course. Well, of course, I stretch it over 4 years. Shouldn't have to do it after that point. Nor do you have to take the pre-licensed course to become a broker. And these are pre-licensed courses, guys. Pre-licensed, what does pre mean? Before, after? So before you get the license, you would take these courses. Course 1 or course 2.
Well, basically in this school, they would stretch it 4 years, but you're learning pretty much
The same thing. Maybe they have special speakers that come in and talk about the business because they have to fill up time somewhere, right? And maybe it's a little bit more comprehensive than what we just, maybe they go through every single detail in the textbook. But I mean, what's the agenda? What's the goal by getting your 4-year degree? To cover it so you can, feel more warm at night? I don't know. If pre is before, what's post? Yes. And I want you to write this down. This is your first renewal. Requires this educational course with us. Okay? So when you pass your state exam, my advice to you is come right back and do your post. Why? Because you never have to do a post again. It's only a 45-hour class. It does get easier. You only take a final exam, no state exam, and you know how we prepare you guys for the class exam, okay? We give you exactly what you need to focus on. It's just to keep you up to date, right? And sooner rather than later. And what does exempt mean? You are or you're not required to do something. Yeah, so you're not required to do any of these 3. Your first renewal, if you have a 4-year degree in real estate. Every renewal after the first is called a CE. What does CE stand for? Continuing education. Do you see CE? That's what we call it. We call it CE. So this is your second and beyond subsequent renewals. Every 2 years, if you were curious. Every 2 years, and it's only 14 hours. And you're not exempt. That means you're still required to do this, even though you have a 4-year degree in real estate, because laws change and the CE class is to keep you up to date with the laws. And just because they hand you this diploma, this degree that says you have, this thing for real estate at this college level, does not mean they hand you a real estate license. You still have to apply, you still have to submit fingerprints, and you still have to pass a state exam. So what is the benefit, really? Same thing if you become a lawyer. If you get a law license, it doesn't mean that once you pass the bar exam, they also hand you a real estate license. So they're not like, oh, congratulations, you're a lawyer. Here's also a real estate license. No. They just make it easier for you to get the real estate license. What do I mean by that? Look, the class you're taking right now to become a sales associate, you're exempt. To become a broker, you still have to do it. To renew for the first time, you still got to do it. But for your CE, you have to keep up your law license. You have to renew your law license, which requires you to be familiar with up-to-date rules, laws, regulations. Same thing for real estate. So it helps you out. You're exempt. Any questions here? Okay. The certificate we issue is good for how long? 2 years. That's in the shaded box. Any questions about that? Okay. Go to page 28. License examinations. We're talking about the state exam now. If I can share some information with you, it's a multiple choice computerized test. You have to schedule through Pearson VUE. Remember? Your application and fingerprints have been approved. They give you a 9-digit code that allows you to go to Pearson VUE's website, make an account, and schedule your state exam. Now, the exam is offered in English and in what? You might have heard a rumor floating around that you should schedule to take your exam in Spanish. Has anybody heard this rumor floating around? Anybody online? Let me see if I can check you guys out. Anybody hear this? Take your exam in Spanish? All right. This is a rumor floating around that it's an easier test. It's not an easier test. They're still testing you on the same type of information, but I would recommend all of you to schedule and take your exam in Spanish. I took my state exam in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish. So you're probably wondering, okay, that's completely confusing and it's just a contradiction to what you're trying to promote. First of all, who does not speak Spanish in here? Raise your hand. Who does not speak Spanish? 2 of us, okay, several of us online. Congratulations, now you all speak Spanish. Why? Because I'm telling you, I'm recommending that you take your schedule to take your state exam in Spanish. When you get to the reception desk to check in for your state exam, you greet the receptionist properly. You say, hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Todo bien? No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that. They're going to sit you down in front of a computer screen. It's going to be in Spanish, but there's a button in the upper right-hand corner that says traducir, which means, or traducción, which means translate. You click that button once. You can click it as many times as you want. But if you click it once, it will translate not just that page, but the entire exam into English. So you schedule to take it in Spanish, but you actually can take it in English. Why on earth would I recommend this to you? Because I'll tell you the truth. They hired somebody from Spain to translate all 20 versions of the English exam to Spanish because we have a large Hispanic community, Spanish-speaking community in Florida, as you can imagine. They hired somebody from Spain, okay? So even if you speak Spanish, most Spanish people in Florida that speak Spanish are not from Spain. They're from South America, Central, Caribbean. It's a completely different dialect, okay? So even if you speak Spanish and you take it in Spanish, it probably won't help you. Yeah. Plus, the different words that they assign to different things. The person they hired to translate all 20 versions stopped at only 5. They said, this is all we can do. Take it or leave it. They said, well, you're contracted for 20. What's going on here? They said, certain words in English just don't translate into what? Spanish. And also the real estate terms that you're asking us to translate, it's so confusing and there's so many different dialects. You're going to have pushback from people who actually speak Spanish as to why this exam doesn't make any sense. So these are the only questions that we feel confident giving to you where nobody's going to complain. And the state said, okay, we'll take it, I guess. So there's 5 versions of the Spanish exam, 20 versions of the English exam. And the questions that they chose to translate were the questions that were easier to convert from Spanish into English. So they are the questions that are more straightforward. They're not tricky because you can't translate tricky. You can't translate who's not exempt from getting a real estate license. How does that? You can't translate that. So how would the exam question be if it was in Spanish? Who needs a real estate license? That's something I can understand, right? So that's why you would schedule to take it in Spanish, but you get there, you see a button. I promise you the button's going to be there. I know you guys are skeptical about the button. Yeah, you promise. It's in the textbook. Look, right here. You may toggle back and forth between Spanish and English translation. So the button's going to be there. And you can go back and forth as many times as you wish. No, you don't have to remember phrases. You don't have to put on a disguise. Please don't do that. None of that.
When it's in Spanish and you transfer it to English, yes, the whole thing changes, but like, I don't know, like when it goes back to English, would it like, I don't know, just change everything or no? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be the English version of
But
all the questions and answers. Will it be comprehensible? Yeah.
The ones that they didn't translate.
No. It's just that version of the test that you have.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It's not like they changed the version on you. But if you take it in English, there's 2,000 possible questions. You take it in Spanish, there's 500 possible questions they can test you on. Okay? Yeah. So who speaks Spanish now? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yeah, come on. You got it. Take it in Spanish. The passing grade, it must always be what? You got it. Your grades, you're going to get your results at the testing facility. It's not on the computer screen like what we offer with our software. You're going to know immediately on the computer screen, pass or fail, and what your score is either way. For the state, they only tell you what your score is if you fail. Obviously, you don't want that. But I think it's a nice gesture that if you don't pass, they give you a breakdown of how many questions you missed out of each unit you were tested on. All 19 units in the textbook. Not all units are measured the same. That you might only have a few questions from one unit and 10 or 11 questions from another unit. So just understand that. Some units are more important than others is what I'm saying. And I'll make sure I mention that as we progress. Let's continue. If you don't pass, you have to wait at least 24 hours before you can reschedule. I already mentioned that to you. It's on your handouts. Any questions? But every time you retest, it's a fee, correct? Unlimited attempts. You can pay to review a test you failed. I already mentioned that to you, and you pay for it. It's within
Michael.
We cannot hear you.
Yes?
Yes.
Test. All right, cool. Thank you for letting me know. You know, sometimes it goes, usually it lasts me for the whole class, but I got to recharge it. Let's continue on. Qualifications. No, we don't need that. Go to page 29. Page 29. We're almost done with this unit. Would you like to continue? Anybody need a break? Are you good with proceeding? Anybody oppose proceeding? Okay. So class exam question here. You're going to be tested on this. And it's our first renewal. Do you remember? First renewal. It's the most important renewal for that reason. Your first is your most important. If you're late by 1 day for your first renewal, you have to start all over again. They don't keep anything on file. So you remember the 5 steps? You got to repeat the 5 steps all over again. And you'll see that here. If you want to continue in the real estate business, must requalify for licensure. Continue in the real estate business, must requalify. If you fail, did not complete the post-license class, and it's a 45-hour class. Any questions about that? As I mentioned, no state exam, only a class exam, but your passing grade for our class exam must be what? Yeah. So what's the recommendation? And you'll notice this is a common theme because I'm going to repeat it several times. As soon as you pass the state exam, you need to come right back and knock out the post. Because not only will it give you peace of mind, you're going to have to do it eventually anyway. So why not do it early so that way you're not waiting till last minute to do a 45-hour class. And the student in the last class, one of her classmates, her name was Evelise, she doesn't mind if I share that. She was taking the class all over again because she was late for her first renewal. And she didn't mind taking it with us because she had a good experience. However, she's like, guys, please just knock it out earlier rather than don't wait till last minute like I waited and then I couldn't do a 45-hour class. I had no time left. Any questions? Okay, there's only one circumstance where they might give you an exception to the rule if you're late. And if you go to page 30, line 1, if you can prove either a physical or on line 5, economic what? Hardship. If you can prove either one of those two. But it has to be really good. Okay, your excuse. Like you were in a coma and that's why you couldn't do it. They have really tough skin. They've heard every excuse under the sun as to why people procrastinate. So you have to really be able to prove it. Any questions here? Every renewal after the first is called a CE. What does CE stand for? It's every 2 years after the post. And it's only 14 hours. It's a 14-hour continuing education course. Any questions about this? All right. Something interesting, and that's every 2 years. Okay, as long as you want to be licensed, you are required. Look on line 26. A licensee may substitute attendance at one legal agenda session of FREC for 3 hours towards your CE, but it's per renewal cycle on line 28. Do you remember we talked about FREC being the police for Florida real estate license law? And they have meetings once a month. Conveniently, the meetings are held in downtown Orlando. That's convenient for us. We can attend these meetings. They're open to the public. But if you go to the meeting and you sign in with your license number, they can give you how many hours credit towards your continuing education if you're due. That would be nice. It says 3 right here at the end of line 26. 3 hours. But it's only per renewal cycle. So you still have to complete 11 additional hours. You understand? For that renewal cycle, yeah. It's not like you can attend 5 meetings in a row for 5 months straight and then cover your 14 hours. That would be nice, but you can't do that. Go to page 31. To become a broker, I mentioned I would come back to the requirements. Here they are. Check out this first sentence, line 2. You have to at least complete your 45-hour post-license course as a sales associate before you can apply for the broker's license. So that's another reason why you should get it done sooner rather than later. You have to complete a pre-license course with us. It's called Course 2, and look on line 9. It's a 72-hour course. 69 plus 3 is 72 hours. But the only thing you were probably confused about was the experience that you have to have. Does that mean you have to complete a certain amount of transactions as a sales associate? No, which you would probably assume because that's true experience, right? But it's not that, it's time. How long has your license been active for? So wait a second, Michael, you're telling me all I have to be is active with a broker? And for a certain time period, I don't have to complete any one single transaction and I'd be qualified to open up my own brokerage office? That's scary, but that's the case. That's the truth. Check this out. It says at least 24 months being active. Do you see this? Must have held an active real estate license for at least 24 months within a 5-year time period. Wow. That means just having your license, hanging your license with the broker for at least 2 years, and you meet the experience requirement to become a broker yourself. Not even complete a real estate transaction. Now, to be fair, most brokers are not, if you're not being productive, if you're not producing, you're not doing any deals, the broker probably is going to let you go. Right? But there are some people, maybe you have a friend that's a broker, and they're like, yeah, you can hang your license with me. I don't care if you do a deal or not. As long as it's been 2 years within a 5-year time period, you meet that experience. That's crazy. And here's the different ways that you can earn that experience. It could be with a broker in Florida, another state in the United States, or even in another country. But it's very difficult to get credit for another country, I can tell you. You have to submit transcripts and you have to submit all kinds of evidence, get it translated if it's not in the native language, which is English. So anyhow, go to page 32. The first renewal of a broker's license is called a post-license course. You'll see it right here. First renewal. And it's how many hours? Yep, 60. Any questions? If you're late, what happens to your license? Becomes null and what? Null and void. Same thing for sales associates. You're late by 1 day for your first renewal, null and void. You got to requalify. So they'll take away the broker's license. They'll put you back down to a sales associate with no experience. Every renewal after the first is called a CE. What does CE stand for? Any questions? All right, let me show you some quick terminology and how it's used in our business, specifically for our real estate license. The way we use the term registration, look, is as follows. It's the process of submitting information to the beeper. That's it. So what's an example of this? When you plan to submit your application with the state, when you do so, you are registering with the beeper. Because what is registration? Submitting information to them, right? When you renew your license, or when you do any type of action with the state and you're submitting documentation to them, when you make your license active with a broker, you have to submit a form to say, I'm going to work for this broker. I want to make my license active with this timeshare company, this owner developer. You are registering that information with the state of Florida through the beeper, the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, the Florida Licensing Authority. They keep track of all of this. Now, licensure is just like it sounds, being issued a license by the state. When I got my license, they actually sent me a physical license in the mail. They don't do this anymore. Now they email your license to you, and it's your requirement to print it out, cut it out, and keep it in your wallet at all times, like your driver's license. They say you're supposed to do this to serve as prima facie evidence. This is Latin. It means that it's good and sufficient on its face to prove that you're a real estate professional. So by you being able to show your license to somebody proves that you're a real estate professional, real estate licensee. That's it. And you're supposed to keep it on you at all times. So laminate it, toss it in your wallet until you renew your license. Then they're going to issue you a new license with a new expiration date. Cut it out, put it in your wallet. You're going to be tested on that. Legal term used to refer to evidence that is good and sufficient on its face to prove a given fact. Any questions here? All right. One of our last subjects. There are 8 services of real estate that you need to know. To help you remember them, think of the acronym A-bar sale. You're going to be tested on this. Advertising, buying, appraising, renting, selling, auctioning, leasing, and exchanging. Why do you need to know these 8? It's because of what we see on the next page, page 34, line 10. Let me read this out to you. It's important for you to hear this. I'll read it out loud. Anyone who performs any of those 8 services of real estate for another, for compensation of any type, must be licensed, unless specifically exempted by law. But then you're curious, okay, Michael, you said compensation of any type. What is compensation? How do you define that? It's anything of value, valuable consideration, directly or indirectly paid, because people try to play the game of, oh, I didn't get paid directly, right? You still got money off of it, right? Paid, promised, or expected to be paid or received. What does that mean? The promise or expected to be paid or received, what does that mean? That means just the promise of receiving money is the same as receiving the money. So in real estate, this is the phrase that you should remember. The promise of being paid is the same as getting paid, even if you don't get paid. Does that make sense? The promise of being paid is the same as getting paid, even if you don't get paid. So even though in the end, if you didn't receive money, but the promise existed and both there was a mutual exchange of that promise.
Like contracts from.
Yeah, it's the same as you having the money in your hands. And if you don't have a real estate license, how can you accept a promise to be paid off of a real estate transaction? The whole point of taking this class is so that we can earn compensation off of a real estate transaction, right? So this is a typical question you'll get on your state exam. Jordan is helping his father sell some property he owns. Jordan is not a real estate licensee, but the father is grateful for his son's assistance. So he promises he's going to pay him like $3,000 after they complete the deal. The son says, yeah, pay me whatever you think is fair after we complete the transaction. And they continue with this arrangement in place. At the end, the father tries to give him the money. The son refuses. I'm not gonna take a dime. Don't insult me. I'm not gonna take your money. I'm just happy you sold the property, Dad. And it ends there. No money exchanged hands at the end. Was this a violation of real estate license law? Yes or no? Yes, it absolutely was. Because when he promised he was going to give his son something for helping him out, the son didn't have a real estate license. How can he receive compensation off of a real estate transaction? Can't do that. It's a violation of real estate license law. But actually, both are in violation because of the father giving the promise to an unlicensed person and the person who's unlicensed receiving the promise. Now, the question I get is, well, they're family, right? Isn't there an exception to the rule because they're family? No. Just because they're family does not exempt them from needing a license, the son. And if the son's name was on the deed, I would understand that, but that's I didn't mention that to you. If they both have ownership, but I didn't say they had ownership. I said the father owns property, the son is helping his father sell the property. The father wants to give his son money for helping him with a real estate transaction, getting the property sold. You need a license for that. So how could the son accept that? How could the father give a promise an unlicensed person? Be careful with this because it also kind of bleeds into ethics. Because you might be thinking, okay, if it's my family member, what's the harm? What's the foul? How is somebody going to find out? Is that really a question that we should be asking? No, you should just follow the law, whatever the law is, and in all circumstances, because you know the law now, so you must abide by the law. Any questions about this? If somebody finds out that this is going on, they're in violation and they could be held accountable. Yeah, state of Florida, state law says if somebody doesn't have a real estate license, they're getting compensated for a real estate transaction without a license. That's a third-degree felony. So that's called unlicensed practice of real estate. Same thing if you're trying to practice law without a law license. Trying to practice medicine without a medical license, right? Same thing. And some people get caught up with compensation, like, okay, what if it's not money? Shouldn't it be okay? Like, what if they gave me a gift basket? What if they gave me Beyonce tickets? What if they gave me Bad Bunny tickets? Like, isn't that okay? No. Isn't that some type of compensation? Compensation is anything of value. And if it's based on the transaction, which we know it is based on what I'm describing, you can't receive that unless you have a real estate what? And not just a real estate license, a what type of real estate license? Active. Thank you. Exactly. I want to be very clear on this because people get caught up with that and they don't understand. So for exam purposes, even if it's a gift basket, that's a form of compensation. A gift card, same thing. And you need a license to receive that. You're being paid on a transactional basis. You'll see it for your homework tonight. But when do you not need a real estate license to perform specific acts? There's 5 groups. Let's go through each one of these 5 groups and then we'll be done with this unit. Go to page 35. If you own the property, didn't you just mention that? Once again, Nisha, you just mentioned this. Like, what if they're related? No, it's not because they're related, but if they're owners, you don't need a real estate license to sell your own property or manage your own property, rent it out. That's why you have for sale by what? Owner. Have you seen that sign before? We call them FSBOs. FSBOs, FSBO, for sale by owner. We call them FSBOs for short. Or for rent by owner as well. That's a thing, and that's okay. All right. And there's various form of ownership, even for timeshare. You could read through it later on tonight. Exemptions based on your career. So could you receive compensation off of a real estate transaction for other services that you're licensed for? Yeah, like lawyers. Lawyers can be involved in a real estate transaction, but they're charging for their legal services. Okay. CPAs could be involved in a real estate transaction. When I'm helping somebody sell their business for them, which I've done on several occasions, they need to have a lawyer, or I can recommend one, and an accountant involved. Otherwise, I won't do the deal, because I know when buyers are interested in purchasing the business, they want financials to be prepared. So, and they can charge for their accounting services. And also, almost every single real estate transaction requires what to be completed? An appraisal report, right? And they can charge based on that service. They don't also need a sales associate license. Do you remember when we talked about salaried? Look at all the various examples of salaried employees. Exactly. Look, right here on the second bullet point. If you are a salaried employee of an apartment community, like a rental agent for a leasing company, you can receive a salary, not a commission. And you're not restricted on the duration of lease on behalf of the company. Look, managers of condo, co-op apartment complexes, they can issue lease agreements as well, but for no longer than 1 year. But they're paid a salary. That's the whole point of this. That's the trend. And we already talked about this one. salaried employee of an owner what? Do you remember this? Like timeshare, major home builder, Lennar Homes, KB Homes, DR Horton, Pulte Homes. Okay. Any questions? Yes. Condo complex. Yep. We're just saying that you can't prepare those. You can't issue those if you're a salaried employee of a condo complex, or even if you have the license. You're restricted on the time of, or the duration of lease that you issue. And we'll talk about leases in Unit 7. Unit 7 is going to outline what that time period restriction is and the requirements for lease agreements in the state of Florida, because every state is different on the rules between landlords and tenants. Florida is a very favorable state for landlords, which is beautiful. That's why so many people invest here, but we'll talk about that later on. And if you go to the next page, court-appointed individuals. If you're court-appointed to liquidate property on behalf of a deceased person, you don't need a real estate license in that capacity. Like you're the executor of an estate of a deceased person. Hopefully you haven't had to deal with that, but it's a thing. And if you use the power of attorney document, have you ever heard of POA, power of attorney? A power of attorney document, if you're not familiar, it's a legal document that's utilized to handle legal matters on behalf of another person. So you basically sign your rights to somebody to act in your behalf. And the person who you allow to represent you is called an attorney in fact. Do they have to be a lawyer, this person who you assign? No. Attorney just means a form of representation. That's it. They're representing you, handling legal matters for you. And this is useful if you're dealing with foreign buyers and sellers. Okay, a couple of our students here, Rafael and also Lucas, mentioned that they're from Brazil and they might have business that they can tend to for people that are transitioning from Brazil to Florida and so forth. Maybe that's a way, that's their target market, right? We talked about target marketing. Or Morocco. Okay. Fez, Casablanca. Okay, all right. Anyhow, it's my plan to go. It's my plan to go. Where should I stay away from? Where should... Just stay in Marrakesh? Okay. Yes. Okay. Deal. Good deal.
Like the people and Tangier is like Spain.
That sounds beautiful. It's and it's so close in proximity as well. So that's why, man, I have to applaud Moroccan people because they leave the country speaking 5 languages. I mean, at least 4, right? But French, Arabic, Spanish, sometimes Portuguese, English, of course. And I mean, we're doing something wrong in the United States. It's like,
The Arabic is like mixed with the English, with Spanish, with French, and like another country Arabic is like not understand us because yeah, it's like a mix. It's like you talk like como está, yeah, you like that, and you mix the word with the Arabic, and the people not understand.
I'm curious about something. And we're getting off topic for a second, but I did want to ask you because I don't think I've ever asked this question, and I've had so many Moroccan students over the years. When you're in school, learning these various languages, is there any magic bullet where they say, hey, listen, these languages, certain languages are very similar to one another? And do they say, hey, listen, if you learn this language, it's going to help you learn this and this language, and this is how they connect it? Or they just say, here's your class for Spanish, here's your class for French, here's this. How do they do it?
like you have two choice in the first time. It's like when you was young, like before high school, you have to learn French like second language or Spanish like second language. And in high school should be learn the English with the French also. And when you work, when you go to job, not talking Arabic in the job, can we talk French? But now French, English.
Very interesting. That's very interesting. Well,
Lots of business with France, with USA.
see, I told my wife, yeah, it opens up the possibility. So this is why the Moroccan people, they can go anywhere in the world and they can find opportunities. I think there's beauty in that. And I think it's so cool. And that's why a lot of them work in hospitality too, because hospitality, you're seeing people from different countries come in and say, listen, I got it. And you start speaking French to them. And that's an amazing thing. And that's why also they do really well in timeshare and sales, because the way to bring down people's guard and their walls is when you can relate to the person. So sometimes people unlock that by giving us person a compliment. Like, oh my gosh, those earrings look so cool. You know, like, oh, where'd you get those shoes at? And you got to find different ways to build commonality and bring down their guard, because people inherently don't want to be sold something. Even though salespeople are the easiest people to sell, which is interesting. It's an interesting psychology behind it, but people don't want to be sold. So you have to approach it in a different angle and just get to know them and say, hey, listen, this is why I did this for my family. This is why so many and if you haven't done it yourself, this is why so many families are doing this. I would hate for you to miss out on something like this. Would it be something that you would at least consider? You know, could you save money with this? Let me show you how you could save money at the least. If it could save you money, then let's see if it works out. You know what I'm saying? So it's a different angle, different approach. And personalities too. Personalities will dictate how you present to each person. That's psychology of sales. And if you get into certain sales environments, they teach you that, it's outstanding. Anyhow, miscellaneous, let's go through them. If you are renting a lot within a mobile home park, recreational vehicle park, you don't need a real estate license because they're not considered to be real property, nor are selling cemetery lots. If you are selling a publicly traded company, like they're in the stock market, you don't need a real estate license to facilitate the sale and make money off of it. If you work at the reception desk at a hotel, motel, Holiday Inn, you don't need a real estate license to rent a room. And then if you live in an apartment complex, has anybody ever lived in an apartment complex? Raise your hand. Okay. A lot of the time they have like a referral program. Like if you bring a tenant, a friend, and they sign a lease. Yes, but what does it say in front of us? It says only $50 maximum cash, even on a gift card, $50 max. But they don't give you the $500 you're talking about as a referral fee. They don't give you cash. They don't give you cash. They give you credit towards next month's what? So they find a way around it. The CAM license, again, if you want to manage an entire community, check this out. The community needs at least 10 units with an annual budget of $100,000. And we saw this in a previous unit, didn't we? Okay. Any questions here? If there's no questions, we're actually done with this unit. Which, I mean, we're scheduled to be here till 10, but we got done a little bit early. I'm not going to keep you if we cover all of the content that we are required. We do short working breaks. You notice that, right? And I like to do that for the evening classes because you got a full day and then you come to class at night and you're trying to fit this into your busy schedule. Does anybody have kids? Okay. Yeah, I got kids. Yes, I see you online as well, Raphael. Anybody else got kids? William, Barb? Yeah, anybody? Yeah. I got kids and I get it. They take up a whole lot of attention and time. Does anybody work in the morning and then come to class? Anybody in here? Yeah, so I get that as well. Anybody taking college classes or classes for something else and doing real estate class, raise your hand. Okay, yes. Ariana. Wow. So it's a lot. I get it. But you set aside your time because it was worth it. It was a worthwhile investment. You made an investment on yourself, which is the best investment you can make. It's knowledge that you're going to gain in this 2-week session. And this knowledge is irreplaceable. You will see that. I will prove it to you. And I think you see kind of evidence of that, little shades of that in the beginning of first day of class. But as we progress, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, why didn't I know that? Like I should have known that when I bought my first house, when I bought that investment property. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is things that everybody needs to know if they're going to eventually invest or buy property for themselves in Florida. It just makes sense. My goal is to make this a required course, senior year of high school, maybe gives you a little college credit, even if you don't go to college, still gives you that credit. But they force us in high school to take these LMS, life management skills, and sex education, and a few things. No more driver improvement or driver's education. That's done in schools, which is interesting. And you don't leave, if I don't want to preach right now, but let me tell you something. You leave school nowadays with no skills. And I hate to say that so bluntly, but let's be honest here. You leave school without knowing how to open up a bank account, how to build credit. Financial literacy is what I'm talking about. And this is the beginning journey of that, in my opinion. So you learn things in here about mortgage loan payments, how they're structured, repayment structure, what you're actually paying towards, interest, principal, and the different programs available that we need to know to benefit and protect ourselves and the people we care about most. So without getting too preachy on you guys, I know the benefit because I've been doing this for long enough, and you guys will soon to see all the benefits. And hopefully that resonates with you. But any questions before we conclude our session for today? How you guys feel? First day of school? Good? Yes? All right. I get a round of applause. I appreciate it. Always nice to get those. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But same time tomorrow. What are we doing tonight? Homework. For the units we covered within that day's session. So we covered units 1 and 2. I expect you to work on all the questions at the end of units 1 and 2. Not the questions, it says practice question in the middle of the unit. Have you seen those scattered? Practice questions here and there. Don't worry about those, okay? I'm telling you the questions at the end of units, the units that we cover. It says unit 1 exam, unit 2 exam. And be prepared for tomorrow. I'm going to ask you to read out the question. Tell me what you got as your answer. Don't make it awkward, okay? Because you didn't do them. Do them, and you will be that much more prepared, thankful, better off for your state exam. Any questions here? Good? With that being said, push in your chairs, clean up your mess, drive safe. God bless. I will see you mañana. Because we speak Spanish now. Lucas, you had a question? Or you're saying bye? Okay. Adios. Ciao. Bonsoir. Hasta mañana. Hasta luego. How do you say in Portuguese, I'll see you tomorrow?
Até amanhã.
In an era where online education often falls short, there's an oasis transforming the digital learning landscape. Welcome to Cameron Academy. With our AI-powered platform, we're not just changing the game, we're rewriting the rules. At Cameron Academy, we're not just elevating education, we're lifting learners to new heights. Our comprehensive video lessons and AI tutors simplify complex real estate concepts. At Cameron Academy, we do more than prepare you for your exams. We equip you with the essential knowledge for a successful career in real estate. Break away from the traditional. Think computerized exams, a convenient study app at your fingertips, and AI support, but wait, that's not all. Live chat support when you need it, AI-driven text-to-speech content, your own personal AI tutor, and instant online certifications. This isn't just education. This is the future. We're reimagining what it means to ascend to success in the real estate industry. Choose Cameron Academy, the oasis of innovative learning. Your journey to success starts here.